Awesome. We are live. So I'm here
Nice.
with Lalo and Hagbard, and we're just gonna have a really laid back chat and just kind of talk about some stuff. It's
Can I
good to
talk
have you.
about? Can I mention with you guys something that I've like wanted to mention? I've wanted to I wanted to talk to it with someone, but I keep forgetting to bring it up. So I'll just bring it up with you guys. Do you guys remember the Ben Carson question that like got really popular, where he said he wouldn't want a Muslim to be president,
Indeed.
right? But the question itself wasn't that. Do you remember what the question was?
No, I don't know what the question was, but I also remember his answer was more in depth, and he more specifically said that he didn't want someone that believed in the Quran over the U.S. Constitution to be
No, yeah,
president.
yeah, but that was the question. The question was to him wasn't about if he would accept a Muslim president. It was the guy who was interviewing said, "Do you believe the I forget if it's Islam or the Quran, but it doesn't really matter actually. Or it might let's say
No.
Islam. Do you believe Islam is compatible with the U.S. Constitution?" That was the question that was posed to him,
Well,
and
then,
it's very unfortunate the way he answered because people concentrate on the fact that he said he wouldn't want a Muslim as president, but I mean, because that would depend on the degree that you are a Muslim, of course. You could be a Muslim and the least Muslim, moderate, I don't pray, I don't go to mosque at all kind of Muslim, so it wouldn't really matter in that case. But the question, is Islam compatible with the U.S. Constitution? It would have been so great if he just said, of course not. Absolutely not. And if he had said that, I would have totally supported him. I would have totally supported him in that reply because that is an absolute fact. It's not compatible.
yeah.
Let me say two things real quick.
Go for it.
One, can someone find this video and put it on Twitter because it's not out there at all, and then and tag both of us in it. And two, would a reformed version of Islam be compatible with the U.S. Constitution, and kind of
No,
explain that?
no, no, no. I mean, I'll just answer it really quick. Absolutely, no form of Islam will ever be compatible with the U.S. Constitution because no religion, by definition, could be compatible with it.
I like that answer. A lot of people would argue that it's compatible with Christianity or whatever, but it's not compatible with any religion.
I mean, just
But I
by the
like
First
that.
Amendment, it's not compatible with any religion.
Right, right. Yeah, and he kind of took the conversation to the presidency thing when it really didn't. It didn't start as that,
Yeah,
and he could have saved face by not taking it there. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because that was a pretty hard hitting question. It was a good question, but it was simple. I don't know.
Do
What do
you
you think
want?
about the? Go ahead.
Do you want me to tweet out this video?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah. Not like the link to it, but the YouTube video.
Yeah, I found it.
Last time I sent out the freaking like the jump in, and that
Yeah,
didn't that
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
end
yeah.
up being too
The
good.
link to join the conversation. You like put it in
yeah.
Yeah,
you put it in the chat. You put it everywhere.
I don't know why I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because fuck it, it's
I
fun.
found it. I'll tweet it
Awesome,
out now.
awesome. Yeah, go ahead and tag us in it too.
All right. You guys go ahead.
Hagbard,
Yeah,
did you watch the GOP debate?
I did not.
Okay, well then there's nothing really I can bring up about that. Happy
I,
Halloween,
I
by the
don't. I
way.
haven't seen any of that either.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
not. I haven't had time to follow the American politics.
I heard it was extremely boring. MSNBC will not be hosting another one because they were talking about football. They were talking about like, you know,
That's because they don't have any issues to debate. They technically all have to agree to be there. It's the right has gone. It's a complete hegemony. I mean, it's unlike the left that technically even between Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and Martin O'Malley, there was at least some differences.
yeah.
The GOP
And you,
candidates are essentially all the same. And when it comes to Ben Carson, he also had that quote they misconstrued about. I mean, of course, if you were being faced with a wild gunman, I mean, I've never understood how people end up lining up and just being like, well, he's got a pistol, let's just make this quick, line up, stand up, and get ready for the bullet. Like, that's what happened at, what was it, Virginia Tech? He literally had people stand up in the middle of a classroom of like 46 people. I don't fucking think so. Please, no thank you. I mean, there's the ex-soldier that lunged at him. I mean, he took, what, 5 or 7 rounds? That's 5 to 7 rounds that didn't get to kill other people. I mean, even if he had died, he would have died a hero, saving at least 7 lives, because this dude was shooting people in the head. So I think it's just I don't like Ben Carson. I don't care about his politics. I just don't like people that are bullshit artists and twist the truth.
So will you state the question so for people who haven't heard that? Like, and I haven't even heard it. What was the
The
question?
question was essentially of, like, would you have just stood there or something along the lines of, what would you do under the situation of having a gunman come into a building intent on killing people? And he said, I would rush them.
Wait, but who asked him this?
Some reporter right after the incident in Oregon.
That's such a bizarre question to ask.
It is a very the politics has gone off the fucking rails, dude.
What would you do if you pulled into your garage and got out of your car and someone just, ran in your garage and started to try to rob you? I mean, like,
Yeah,
what would you do?
I would give him
That's
everything.
just
That's a different situation.
but it's
that's
just
such
as
a-
random as asking
Yeah,
that.
but it's a different situation. That's my thing. Because then people tried to
What
point
was-
out that he once got robbed at gunpoint, and he didn't. Of course, it's a robbery, not a shooting. It's a very different incident. If someone comes in and says, "Give me all your money," I'm going to give them all my money.
Nobody's life is in danger but your own.
Yeah,
In that
yeah.
situation, you're in a school shooting, and also the intent of a robbery, is to take your things, right?
Correct.
They want you. They don't essentially in a robbery they don't want to shoot you. They want your things, right? So
Correct.
it's in your best interest to give them your things, and they'll
And
leave.
it is. And
But
it is.
if in a school shooting, let's say, the intent of the shooter is to kill people, and not to
And
take things.
Exactly.
So it's a totally different situation.
I know what Donald Trump would do. He would be throwing students at the shooter.
Yes, he would. He would be holding other people up in front of him.
Especially the Mexican students.
Yeah.
Well,
And he'd be criticizing the shooter. You're such a bad shooter. Like, your aim is off. I mean, you're dumb. You're dumb. Come on.
Dumb. You know you're
It's not
dumb,
that
right?
hard to shoot. It's point blank range, man. Come on.
A toddler can shoot better than you.
Okay,
So,
so
yeah.
I wanted to get the two of you in a chat because I mean when we were on that other one with Anthony, it was a great conversation, and that one got taken down, which really sucks. But I mean that was a quality chat if there ever was.
It
one.
got taken down because Anthony showed a video that got flagged, I think.
Yeah, at the
Yeah.
ITV.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, technically,
Yeah.
he could go back. Anyone who had the original file could go back, cut it, and.
No, but he doesn't have the original file.
Oh, nobody pulled it down.
No, it doesn't let it. They're not allowing him to actually like view the file to get it and then edit it. It's just gone. He can't get it back. Isn't that fucked up? You can't
That's
even
very
have that
fucked
file
up.
for
Well,
yourself.
see, and I actually have a tendency when I'm on a run like that, I do an immediate clip CC backup.
Mm.
Clipconverter.cc is a website that'll lets you pull
I
down
use
stuff.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I usually do that almost immediately after a hangout I'm on, just to make
Mm.
sure that shit gets saved in case anything gets flagged.
Right.
So I really wish I'd done it with that one.
Mm.
That's one time I figured it was Anthony. He had it covered.
Yeah.
So how you been doing?
Good. Do you guys also have not much of a social life? That you're talking with me on Halloween?
Yeah, that can be easily said.
My son's 11 months old, so like we went out, we saw some family, but there's not really much. Like we can't go around trick or treating, and
Right.
it's cold outside where I'm at, so it's just I don't know. It's
Well,
kind of
but, I mean, you're even like you have a better excuse than me, because you have a son who's 11 months old. You have to be at home, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm a single guy. I should be out with like friends, partying, getting drunk. I have no excuse, but nothing more than just I have a pathetic social life. That's it.
We were messaging on Twitter, and I sarcastically said, in America, we have this great holiday called Halloween.
It is a
and-
great holiday. It's a fantastic holiday. It's my favorite holiday in the States.
Yeah, I was just basically being an asshole, like, because you live in Chile, so.
No, I love, dude. When I was in the States, Halloween was like the number one. When I was in
Yeah,
college and in
Do they not
California,
do Halloween there?
fuck, like Halloween was the best thing ever.
Do they celebrate it over there? That's kind of what I was going for.
Well, actually, like kids were trick or treating. Like it's starting to become a little bit of a holiday now. It's not that it's not like celebrated by university students like it was celebrated like when I was in California, because it's like even more of a holiday for them than for the kids.
Well, yeah,
almost,
that's when
but,
you went out and did. That's when you used to go out and do hallucinogenics and be in funny costumes. I mean, that's what Halloween's for adults, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, and for girls to dress as slutty as possible.
Yeah, slutty as humanly
Yeah.
possible.
Oh, I love that. But
Do y'all have any
but
holidays that we don't have in the States?
not really.
Okay.
Like, that's the thing about Chile. It's like that's what I like about the United States, that you guys have a lot of holidays and you guys really celebrate them. In Chile, we don't really have that many holidays. Like there's like Independence Day, which is not exactly Independence Day. It's the day they signed the Constitution or something like that. But and there's like a week of kind of like what's it called, Fiestas Patrias, like national parties kind of thing. But aside from that, it's like Christmas and these other kinds of holidays are not exactly celebrated the same way as in the States. I like how the United States they're really into their holidays. I like that.
Some of us.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but it's also could be depressing because people
No,
are like, if you're not having a really great time, then you kind of become either like really happy or really sad.
yeah, no, the thing is with me is I've always been something of an antisocial person, a recluse, so it really doesn't bother me. It stopped bothering me years ago. I actually more enjoy this kind of interaction. We tend to be able to go on off on, intellectual topics or crude humor. It's like dealer's choice. And usually you have to choose that. Like usually that's a selection. You either have to be in an intellectual party where it's going to be all about, foreign affairs and things like that. That's all the conversation you're going to get. Or you have to go to a party with a bunch of frat guys that are going to be doing nothing but telling pussy jokes.
Right.
So it's kind of nice to be able to find a nice medium easy ground in there.
Pussy jokes. Nowadays, a frat party is PC, and they're going to be talking about marginalized
It hasn't
minorities
gotten
and
here
shit.
yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, here it is.
out in Oregon, not yet, man. These guys are still straight up beer drinking, just frat guys, just typical frat guys.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think in Texas it wouldn't be like that, but it's starting to
Hi,
get like
Nisa.
that.
Oh, hi,
Hi.
Nisa. Sorry.
I didn't want to interrupt.
We've got
That's all
Nisa
right.
here. She is awesome.
Yeah, I was listening to your guys' chat the other night, but it was like super late for me when I jumped in and jumped out.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
I was almost 3 a.m. But I was listening to the chat before I even jumped in, and you guys were talking a lot about Majid Nawaz and like his reading of Islam and how it's
Yeah,
still
what was your point though?
whose point?
You said you wanted you said you wanted to add something about him,
Me?
right? Yeah. You
Um,
told me you wanted to add something about it.
I
About
can't
that
remember
topic.
now. Now I can't remember.
Yeah, sometimes it happens to me as well.
Yeah. If it occurs to me again, I'll say it. Yeah.
I think
But yeah, I find him
wrong.
very interesting.
No, go ahead, Hackmark.
No, I said I find him very interesting, Majid Nawaz. I do. Like I said, one of my first Twitter arguments was with him, and I'm like, dude, I had like 16 followers. I'm like, why did you even deign to answer me? I don't understand. Just because I had your name in my chat, I didn't even tweet to him. I just put his name to someone else. I mean, I think I was asking like Richard Dawkins no, it was Ayan Hersey Ali. I text her, hey, what do you think of his activities? And then he popped on and said, I don't know why you're asking her. You're like, whoa, hi. You just popped out of Twitter universe to come ask me about why I'm asking. Like, he basically has a policy on Twitter of keep my name out your mouth. I mean, if you say the words Majid Nawaz on Twitter, he coming. He's gonna be there. Just wait.
Can you blame
Where does
him
he
though?
find that time for that? He'll reply to everybody on
I
Twitter.
have no idea. He is an amazing person for that. If he doesn't have a staff that's like trained to do his same level of
No,
disdainful
I bet it's
response,
him.
I don't think so.
I don't either.
And
Like
you know
I said,
something?
his
You know
staff
something
would be
else?
amazing.
He like Fred Martin. He told me he'll respond to any comment he leaves on Facebook as well. So he's checking his
Wow.
Facebook and
Yeah,
his
just
Twitter all
wow.
the time. Yeah, who can do that?
Did you guys read his latest tweet feud with this guy who was saying that the way he talked about Islam makes one want to join ISIS or something, and then he tweeted a bunch of jokes after that. It was pretty
No,
funny.
I didn't see the jokes, but I tweeted about Nathan Lean's comment to yeah, and even Sam Harris tweeted or retweeted my comment about it.
Well, can you really blame Majid for being like that though? He's always on the defensive. It's understandable.
Yeah. Who was it that I said this to the other day? I mentioned it with Devin that if you really think about it, that like one of the reasons I was saying with Devin, we don't even talk about Fox News is because they're not even the ones doing the attacking really. Like when was the last time you saw an important clip from Fox News attacking Sam Harris or Richard Dawkins or Majid Nawaz? Are they attacking these people or Ayan Hirsi Ali? They don't attack them. Where are all these racist attacks coming from? It's all from the left. It's all from these people who claim to be defenders against Islamophobia, like Nathan Lane and Murtaza Hussein and Glenn Greenwald. All these people who claim to be far left against Islamophobia, they're the ones attacking Majid Nawaz and Ayan Hirsi Ali, even with racial slurs.
Yeah,
so
I thought that was great
the left is the new hardcore right.
I thought that was great when you said on Twitter, "Are you gonna?" I think you tweeted Cenk, and you were like, "Are you gonna defend him?" You know, because people are being bigots against.
Oh yeah, I tweeted that the other day.
Majid. Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
I tweeted like, is Cenk gonna? Oh no, I asked people to send me the video of where Cenk commented on the racial slurs against Majid Nawaz because you're against Islamophobia, right? And of course there are no videos about that. He does videos about tweets.
Well, he
That's
doesn't
what
mind
bugs me.
I can't imagine he minds the term house Muslim too much. I mean, that's gotta be right up Cenk's alley. I mean,
because he did a whole video about the tweets from Richard Dawkins about Ahmed Muhammad, right? So he does videos about tweets, but he does not do any. He has not done any videos about the racist tweets against Majid Nawaz. I've never heard him say the name Majid Nawaz. He's never said it.
no,
He never will either.
It might burn his tongue.
Yeah.
It's a guy who claims to be still Muslim and still will criticize Islam, and that just hurts his brain. He can't.
And doesn't think Sam Harris is a bigot, so that doesn't serve his narrative, right?
No, it hurts his thinky
Yeah,
place.
it goes against his narrative if he's going to talk about someone like Majid Nawaz, because of all the things that Majid Nawaz says about what is literally written in the text.
I want to
Exactly.
say. I want to say for those who don't know, Lalo does a show where he does different podcasts, and he's been doing great work, and he's been doing shows with a lot of great people. I want to ask you, Lalo, who would be like your number one pick to do a podcast with, like someone you haven't talked with yet?
Like aside from Sam Harris, because that's just so easy to just say Sam Harris. Of course.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. But yeah, I guess other than him.
Other than him. I'd like to talk to Ayan actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Ayan because there's a lot of things I disagree with Ayan, and I think she's wonderful at the same time. That's why I would pick Ayan.
What are some of the things you disagree with her about?
Well, she's way to the. Is it right or left? I have no idea what to call that, but she's way too pro-Israel. I think a little bit too much to a default, and what else? Well, I've heard some other. I'd have to check back, but there's a lot of things I've heard him say in the past that I don't always agree with too much. But
could you clarify that?
What?
What does it mean to be too pro-Israel? Because I'm not saying that that's wrong. I just don't understand.
To be too pro-Israel is to say that Netanyahu deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. That's to be too pro-Israel.
Yeah,
that's a comment
fair.
that I think is there's plenty of good criticisms to go around, but when you claim that guy deserves the Nobel Peace Prize, I think you're going a little bit over the edge.
Yeah, and I'm fairly certain that she was speaking hyperbolically there.
It's hard to say because it was in an article, but.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I would also like to ask her how she feels about the left. Because
Didn't she clear that up on? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Didn't
she
she
talked
clear
about that
up
on
with
Dave Rubin.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people actually, I was even in a private chat with a bunch of people on Twitter, and people were saying what I don't like about Ayan is that she she defends the right now, the conservative rights. And I said, well, what do you expect her to do? the conservative right are the only people who support her. The left
Yeah.
isn't supporting her, so why the hell would you like so you have the left who's either to ignoring her or telling her she's a racist bigot and you shouldn't be allowed to speak at universities. And then you
Yeah.
have the right who does support her. And then people on the left who like her are saying, why don't you speak well about the left? Why do you claim to identify about the right? Because the right are the only people who give a damn about her. What do you expect her to do? To piss on the only people who support her? And to say she belongs to the left, a group of people who have pissed all over her? Of course she's going to claim to be on the right. I don't blame her for a second if she said she's like right wing in the United States. Of course she is. Look, she's trying to go to universities, and not just Muslim groups are saying don't come talk in our school. The secular groups are saying that.
Yeah, because
Like,
she's offensive.
what is she supposed to do? Imagine you're in that situation, and you have the right wing saying, "Come work at our institutions. Come give conferences in our groups. You know, we'll pay you. We'll help you. We like the message you're sending out. You know that Islam is a problem, and you know, give us more ideas and stuff like that." And then you have the left that is just saying you're an Islamophobic bigot, and then people say, "Why do you identify with the rights?" It's ridiculous. Like, I don't blame her for a second.
Yeah, it's get in where you fit in. I mean, she's a stranger in a strange land, and the people that are being kind to her, of course, she's going to identify with them. Why the fuck wouldn't she?
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to talk about that aspect with her, but that's, yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good question. That reminds me of the Megyn Kelly incident, like, it was like a year ago? When she was disinvited. No, she wasn't disinvited. There was this group that was talking, they were trying to get a second spokesperson to argue with her instead of just having her do the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys remember that?
I don't think I remember that.
The school. Anyways, I don't remember the name of the school, but they were basically saying, look, we don't want to take away her freedom of speech. She's fine. She can go ahead and talk about her views, but we want a second person to contradict those views, which is not the format of the conference.
Oh, I see.
At the time. So they talked about it on Megyn. I remember that because I saw it like recently. And Megyn Kelly was the one incident when she was actually correct, because she was really defending Ayaan Hirsi Ali, because she was speaking to one of these Muslim students who were against her having her say, and she said, "Oh, I understand. You just want her to speak as long as she's following your narrative."
Right, and as long as so a person can never give their opinion without a person giving the contrary opinion. I couldn't give like this, just say my ideas unless somebody was standing next to me ready to contradict me. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Which would be fine. It would be fine in a debate kind of format, but that wasn't the format for which she was invited to.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point.
If that had been required of anybody else, any other speaker had been required to do that. But no, that wasn't the case. It was just when it didn't fit their narrative.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. Debates are fine, but to say it has to be a debate, obligatory, that's where it's like messed up.
Yeah, but it was fun because Megyn Kelly was like, when you went through what this woman went through, and when someone mutilates your genitals, you can't come here and talk about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I mean, Megyn Kelly was also right. She was one of the few people who gave a really good response to what was, I think it was the Chattanooga shooting, and she gave this really good debate with this Muslim writer. I forget. He's a piece of shit. He's one of these people who lie about Ayaan and Sam Harris a lot, and she had him on, and she was saying that she was defending freedom of speech, and she was right on the point. It was also very good talk from her. So she, I think, for the really most part, I disagree with her. But for example, that freedom of speech after Chattanooga, not a lot of people were saying the right thing. A lot of people were not standing up for freedom of speech in that case.
Mm-hmm.
But that's
Could you speak on that? Like, what against freedom of speech were people saying?
Well, like if you go to a lot of websites after the Chattanooga shooting, just look at go through, like, for example, the videos from MSNBC or the Young Turks or a bunch of the videos during that time, and 99% of all the videos were not about an analysis of the shooters. What were their cause? What is their background? No, everybody was talking about Pam Geller. Oh, let's talk about Pam Geller and how she's a bigot. And let's look at her background, and let's have her on, and let's find clips of her saying bigoted things. And that wasn't the point at all. She didn't shoot at anyone. She held a cartoon contest. What should have been talked about to death in that case, over and over again, was about the shooters and about the global problem of freedom of speech, of cartoonists and people wanting to draw Muhammad. That should and the problem of jihadism and Islamism in the world. That should have been the focus. Instead, they focused on her. And I hold that standard for everyone. If some guys had shot at the Westboro Baptist Church, I really don't think they should be talking for hours on end about how crappy the Westboro Baptist Church is, because they haven't shot at anyone. They're assholes, and they talk a lot of shit, but that's all they do. They don't shoot at people. And shooting at people is the ultimate worst problem you can do. So, and it's not an isolated problem. This problem with the Muhammad cartoons is a repeated problem, and she shouldn't have been the focus of the conversation. And Megyn Kelly reflected that well.
Let me clarify real quick, because you said the Chattanooga shooting, so you were talking about the Garland shootings, the ones where you went and shot at the drawing. That was in Garland, Texas.
Oh, Garland, Texas. I'm sorry, I get all these shootings. In the United States, you guys have too many shootings to keep up with. So Garland, Texas, right? Garland, Texas.
Yeah, Chattanooga was where there was a guy who went and shot at a recruiting center. It was a Marine recruiting center.
Well, they were both Islamic terrorism, though.
They were both.
Garland, Texas. That's the one, right? Garland, Texas.
Yeah. I actually.
You guys need to get a lot less shootings, because I can't keep up with all of them.
Way
too many.
After the Chattanooga shooting, and we can debate this if you guys want to. I'm cool with it. I went to a group that kind of got started, and it was all over social media. It was called Operation Hero Guard. What we did is we went to the recruiting stations, and we kind of, I have a bunch of guns. I have an AR-15. I have a bunch of other guns. I don't talk about them or show them, because I don't know, they're not something to show off. But we went to these recruiting stations, and we kind of just sat outside of them, and we had a bunch of U.S. flags, and we got a lot of support for it, and it was awesome. But we were basically wanting the recruiters to be able to carry and not just walk around with pistols, but at least to have a gun inside the recruiting station, so that and this was fresh, it was new, it was right after the shooting just happened, so there was a lot of tensions on both sides. But one of the senators from Texas came and met us and signed like a certificate to us. It was pretty cool, like thanking us for our service and going out there and doing what we did.
It's really hard for me to argue with that when things like that are happening, that people are actually shooting at recruiters and things like that.
Well, there was a lot of people who were saying that they shouldn't be able to carry.
Which makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm very anti, just like Devin, he's also extremely anti-gun. I'm very anti-gun. But it's really hard for me, but for recruiters, that people are actually shooting at them, and I would assume these are military,
these are soldiers. Yes,
soldiers. They're not regular people. These are, it could be, we're talking about trained U.S. officials, so it's very different in a way. But but it's not a black and white subject, because the other thing is I'm anti-gun, but the problem is I'm talking about a country where it's very easy to have a gun.
Right.
So if you say you're against recruiters having a gun, you're not saying that you're against people everywhere in the United States having a gun. They have guns. All you're doing is taking away the gun from the recruiters.
Yeah, that's the right-wing argument.
It's not the situation I ideally would picture.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that is the situation that they highlight that just keeps getting smacked down by the left. There's no smacking it down. It just makes sense. Does the country have guns? Yes. Then saying that there are gun-free zones simply tells someone who has a gun where they can go where nobody else has a gun. This is
Or
just a
nobody else is
fact.
allowed to have a gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
A law
But
abiding
but
citizen.
at the same time, I disagree that like when people are saying after school shootings, people on the right say teachers should have guns and things like that. That I disagree with.
No, yeah,
You know,
you're right. I mean,
teachers should not
No,
go
I
into
would never
classrooms
see.
armed
That's
and things
going
like
too
that.
far.
Yeah.
People go too far. That's going too far.
yeah, yeah. But to play devil's advocate with that law, Bill Clinton actually put it into. He put it into. I don't know. I can't think of the word, but he's the one that implemented it. And what he was basically saying was that the United States military shouldn't be carrying weapons around the citizens of the United States. He thinks, it could turn into a regime so fast. You know what I mean? If we start going down that path. That was his idea behind implementing that law.
Yeah, and this was also this was also before people actually did go shoot at recruiting centers. So
yeah,
that wasn't a thing in 1995 or 1996.
Right, right. And these guys are big targets. I mean, the U.S. military. You would think one of the first people that someone that wants to do a terror attack would implement that on.
You would think. They're usually too cowardly. They made sure to hit a recruiting center.
Yeah, and on the recruiting center, like where they showed all the bullet holes from where they were shooting, it just kind of captured that argument so well. All of the bullet holes were in where that sign on the door was that said no guns. You know what I mean?
Yep. With no sense of irony.
Yeah. It's a big debate, and it's something that needs to be talked about. Guns in America. You know what I mean? It's a big problem, but I don't think it will soon be finished.
It's a little bit hopeless situation. I think too many guns are out there. You can't you can only control the guns that are coming out now. But essentially, you have a country that is just going to have guns for the next few, decades at least. It's like you can't get rid of the guns.
No. The gun culture is far too entrenched. I mean, it's handed down from generation to generation. I mean, it just. Around here, it's very liberal. I mean, it's extremely liberal in Oregon. You can pretty much do whatever the fuck you want. No one's going to bother you as long as you're not hurting anybody.
But y'all are laxed on gun laws. And it's liberal. It's
That's
weird.
part of liberal. That's part of being liberal, is saying, okay, you can do what you want, don't break the law, or then your rights will be restricted.
Isn't that libertarian, though, not liberal?
Yeah.
I think that's libertarian.
That depends on your definitions. I mean, to split the line between liberal and libertarian is going to get into some really weird debating.
No.
I kind of understand the difference, though.
I think both of you are right, and I think the way that y'all are right is that they both have a lot of the same tendencies.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but libertarianism is people who are extremely in any sense of their life, they want to limit interaction between them and the government. They want the government to be the least involved in their lives as possible. That's to be libertarian.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And you can say that
liberal is about equality amongst different people.
That's one of it. But one of the other things that some people are starting to forget about liberalism is in the 70s and 60s in my country, especially when it started, it was indeed a libertarian movement. The whole point was to be free. I mean, the original Gonzo journalists were extremely left-wing, and they all carried pistols. I mean, it was just this was part of American culture.
I forget the name of this candidate. He's on the right, but he's a libertarian.
Rand Paul.
I think it is Rand Paul who you're talking about. I remember, for example, they were talking about gay marriage, and so he was in a Republican debate, and people were saying they were against gay marriage, but he as a on the right you have people saying they're against gay marriage, and then you had people on the left saying they were for gay marriage. But the libertarian argument, which is different from the liberal argument that favors gay marriage, is that there should be no marriage should be involved with the government at all. It shouldn't be even associated marriage with government. That's the libertarian argument, which is different from the liberal one.
Lalo, I agree with you, and I disagree at the same time because I do that a lot. I know I say that all the time.
You sound like Jank when you do that.
I agree, but I disagree. But of course,
I'm gonna agree with you, and I'm gonna disagree with you.
I do. Now I'm actually thinking about it. Like I hear him say that all the time. But no, let's see. A lot of people are letting Rand Paul kind of represent libertarianism right now, and I'm not saying that you're doing that at all. I'm not saying you're doing that at all.
No, it was just an example.
No, Rand Paul, he from what I'm seeing, he twists libertarianism. Like he makes it kind of fit his.
No, he's pandering now.
He
I
makes
think
it fit
he's
his
pandering to
narrative.
the basis now.
Well,
Sorry.
like when they were talking about abortion, you know what I'm saying? Like you would think a libertarian would be pro-choice, like the government shouldn't be involved. If a woman wants to make her choice, she should be able to make her choice. But he was twisting it towards the Republican narrative of saying, well, I'm libertarian for unborn children, and just going towards them having rights and stuff like that. When it has absolutely nothing to do with libertarianism, but to fit inside the Republican Party and for Republicans to vote for him, he's got to twist that narrative.
Mm.
I'm very
I think
against
he's pandering to the
libertarianism,
basis now.
and I'm glad you brought that up because that was one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to Hagbard, because he was talking about Sargon. Sargon had a chat about libertarianism, and I'm very much against it. So I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about it.
Well, what he was referring to wasn't governmental libertarianism. He's referring to what is the new
Cultural, yeah.
libertarianism,
And
which
I'm
I think is extremely important when it comes to actually having freedom of movement and thought. Because everything else does tend towards some form of overbearing control. And that's what all the leftist literature from the 1960s and 70s that I grew up reading was telling me, was of course be aware of government control, but also be aware of economic pressures, be aware of sociological pressures, be aware that all these things work together. I mean, that's the original foundations of what I'm arguing against right now, because they took those ideals and went too far. They became intersectional feminism. So they took what was once a good idea of judge every person as an individual and not as part of a collective, and they went way too far, and that's where we're at now.
Mm.
Well, cultural libertarianism makes sense, right? Because if
Yeah.
you basically want to I don't know, maximize the freedom of speech and choice and expression and every single, and the freedom to do whatever the fuck you want with your own life. So in
Exactly.
that sense, yeah, I totally.
And
I would
that's
be
what
totally on board
Sargon's
with that.
arguing for. That's all
Well,
Sargon
could you
was
guys
about.
define cultural libertarianism real quick?
Well, that was I can't do it in technical terms off the top of my head, but basically it is exactly as she just said. It's the freedom to do that which you find to be morally correct, the ability to live one's life as one decides, and the ability to have essentially limitless freedom of speech, freedom of expression, creativity, and private property is another strong point of.
So I just pulled. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I just pulled up the definition. It's cultural libertarianism is a liberal. It's funny because it says that word is a liberal view, and that's what I was saying earlier. Is they kind of intertwine. They have a lot of similarities. Is a liberal view of society that stresses the freedom of individuals from cultural norms. It is often expressed in the words of Thoreau as the right to march to the beat of a different drummer.
Yeah.
And that I
choice,
completely
basically.
agree with. I completely agree with that, and I don't want to misrepresent Sargon because that isn't what he was talking about. It's just libertarianism as a whole, at least government libertarianism, I don't agree with, and I don't think it works.
No, it doesn't work. It's
For-
anarchy.
yeah.
It's functional anarchy. It's insane. It's the idea that, and that's why most of them have to claim to be pacifists, because otherwise they'd have to admit that the only way that works is how we started. It's feudalism. The guy with the most land hires some other motherfuckers that are essentially beholden to him from that point on. I mean, it's pretty standard from that point on. You're rebuilding society from feudalism up. It's asinine.
So it's almost like if you take communism and you take it on one spectrum, and then on the complete opposite spectrum would be basically libertarianism, or I mean, I guess if you go further, it'd be anarchy.
For all intents and purposes, it's the other end of things. It goes from one side wants complete dominance, control, structure. The government says what you produce, how much you produce, how many hours you work, and what it's worth. The other end says I decide all of that, no matter what anyone says, except for by threat of force.
Right, and so the place where we're at is kind of is a lot closer to there than the authoritarianist side, but it's further away because we believe in government. We believe that people should be governed to an extent.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
it
it
takes a true
basically
lunatic to say I don't need the police, and that's what we're starting to get in our society again, which we haven't had since the 70s. And we had to swat it down then, and I think we have to swat it down again now.
well, I think it takes away like the political side of libertarianism. I think it diminishes the power of legislature from the part of the government. So what you get is that the government has no legislative power to basically promote um, common organizational policies that it's important for us as a society to function. Did I not make sense at all
No, you
right
did.
now?
And the funny thing about Rand Paul is his cognitive dissonance. Like, he's a libertarianist, but he wants a flat tax. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, he's a libertarian control freak. It's really
Oh
weird.
my god.
Yeah, yeah.
So the
It's
flat
really weird.
tax. Come
No,
on.
I think there's too many aspects there that are just not practical. I think the aspects that he talks about when in a lot of like libertarian ideals are practical in a very simplistic society that existed maybe 200 years ago in the United States. You know,
You know, one
when
thing.
when
Go
you
ahead.
don't have like companies as powerful and as big and as with the incomes they have today, and you don't have such complex societies as you do today. But you could simplify things and just say, like libertarianism, I essentially think is the ideal of a family living in the woods, cutting trees down. You know, like Abraham Lincoln used to do.
Yeah, it's definitely
Just like
pioneering.
he would cut down trees and he would tie them up and run them down the river and sell them to somebody. And essentially, these people wanted to be left alone, right? But that you just
Well,
can't
this
live
is
like that in today's society in the U.S.
No, no,
It's
no, and
not.
I agree, and we're not arguing for libertarianism as a form of governance. I think everyone here agrees that that's ass backwards anarchy. If
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't
That's
good.
why.
function in a
Yeah.
That's
good
why I
society.
brought it up because I wanted to bash it.
Yeah, no,
And
no one
also,
here is a libertarian. We're culturally libertarian. I think you can say and do whatever you want as long as it doesn't harm another individual.
of
Oh, is
course,
that so?
yeah.
Cultural libertarian is more like what you say.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah,
about
it's freedom
culture.
of
It's about culture.
expression. It's basically being a cultural liberal. Is the best way
Yeah,
to say it.
which the
So
liberals aren't
it's a little
anymore.
bit like cultural libertarian is almost like a free speech absolutist. Is that
Kind of, yeah.
kind of the
Yeah,
same?
I
yeah.
would say that
Um,
that's a very
And
European
the reason
concept.
is that that's such a topic is because the regressive left and the conservative right. I don't know. I don't want to throw them in there. You might be able to throw them in there, but they're wanting to ban. I mean, they want censorship. They want offensive stuff to go away. They want that's kind of the revolt to that is cultural libertarianism, and
Because
there's been a huge culture war.
I also consider myself a free speech absolutist. Even though there's a lot of things out there that I disagree with when people talk about limits to free speech. Even when people talk about practical limits to the free speech, I'm very against it.
Yeah, it's
I
like
Yeah,
don't
I
even
think either
like
those.
myself. I don't even think death threats should be legislated against on Twitter, for example, or Facebook.
No, of course not.
we were
They'd
talking
have to
about
be
that the
more
other
serious
night.
than that. They'd have to be way
Oh,
more
on
serious
Facebook.
than a
Okay.
social media death threat. Those are a joke.
Yeah.
What did you say, Hagbar, the other night when we were talking? You said it would be sad if your window was busted or something like that.
Oh, it's hard to
You,
say.
I don't know. This is an example that you gave.
Oh, it's hard to say. It was probably off the cuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But no. One of the things that I mean, he does a lot of not libertarianist things to fit the Republican narrative, so he'll get those votes. But one of the things he's been pretty strong about was lifting the federal ban on marijuana, and you could say that
Yeah,
that's
he's right in
libertarian.
there. He's right there. He's right also in the NSA thing.
Oh
He
yeah,
stood up in Congress for 11 hours to do a
12.
filibuster.
Yeah,
12 hours, yeah. To do a filibuster, and I'm like, okay, go Rand Paul.
yeah. To
He's like,
explain on that, he was trying to he wants to remove the Patriot Act, which allows the United States government to get phone records with
Yeah.
people
How many
unwanted.
it's
times
one
has
article.
Obama?
It's one
How,
article.
how many times has Obama re-signed that thing into power?
All of the times.
Like three or four times now.
All of the times.
Yeah,
And he's a
he's
liberal.
yeah.
No,
Like
he's not.
that's one of the things that like people like never highlighted while he was in office. Every single time he re-signed the Patriot Act. No, like he should have got so much more criticism for that, but he never did.
Yeah.
There's a huge double
No,
standard.
he's a centrist politician. He's no liberal.
I would say I've always considered Obama center right.
Yeah, yeah, he's
never been
center.
to
Yeah,
He's a
election.
centrist.
That's because you're not in America. You're outside.
No, people outside of
So
America, everybody considers him very left wing,
Yeah.
and but only because he's black.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, seriously,
Yeah,
like
thus he
people
must
think
be.
he's a hardcore leftist.
he's not.
Yeah, he's
No, and
not.
I'm
He's
guilty
not.
of that.
He's
Like
not.
I just said he's a liberal. You know what I mean? And I am guilty of that, and I'll admit to that. I don't care.
Well, no, and in our country,
No,
he
no,
would
no,
be
he's
defined as a liberal.
Yeah,
but he's
even in the
not.
United States, yeah, he's even though he's not, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
So
just more globalist.
so we're putting down boots in Syria, is what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
He said 16 times
Yeah.
they recorded of him saying we're not going to Syria, but now I'm hearing.
Everyone knew that was. And the more times a politician says we're not putting boots on the ground, the more boots they're planning on putting on the ground.
Right.
Do you guys think that has something to do with Russia getting involved?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
yeah, I was totally. But I think that well, boots to the ground is one thing. I haven't thought about that scenario. I did, however, thought about the no-fly zone that Hillary was proposing.
Mm.
To have a no-fly zone in Syria in order to get Putin to the table to discuss diplomacy. I think that's a terrible idea. I think
Yeah,
that
of
would
course.
would escalate into very some kind of proxy war, or at worst maybe even a full-out scale war.
Oh
I think
yeah.
that's a terrible idea. I'm not with her at all in that, and she does sound like a European conservative right-wing party when she says that.
And we are crazy close to a war. I mean, we're crazy close to a broad scale war, either in the Middle East, the Flashpoint in China, the South China Sea. I mean, it's hot out there right now.
So who are we flexing against? Who are we putting these boots against?
Right now, I
Russia.
think, yeah, we're showing our willingness to fight to Russia.
Wow. So we're basically defending ISIS.
That's what we're not doing, and we're defending the Kurds.
God, it's so
Now we're
complicated.
defending the Kurds.
So we're basically going to be fighting on both sides. We land in the middle. We're going to fight against Assad,
Yes.
Russia, and then we're going to be stabbed in the back against ISIS. So
Yeah,
It's a
well, what's
three.
what is it? As long as we drop airborne troops, it'll be fine. They like to fight surrounded. They'll be fine.
it's just crazy. I mean, like you see three people fighting, and your idea is let's jump in and fight all of them.
Yeah.
It's pretty stupid. And I have no allies going in. We're not going to have any allies in this. No one's going to back us up.
No, Canada just pulled out.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, Canada just pulled its jets out. They were flying CAP. They were flying air patrol over Syria, and they just pulled their jets out. They want nothing to do with this shit.
Every Assad soldier or Syrian soldier that we kill, or potentially kill, that's helping ISIS. Every ISIS soldier that we kill, that's helping Assad. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then on top of that, if you don't do anything, Russia is gonna jump in, and they're gonna decide the outcome for the United States, which is also undesirable. So the United States also have the problem where they can't do nothing because there are other parties that are interested who are getting involved. So essentially, they can't fight for one side or the other side, and they also can't ignore the subject. So if at this moment, the worst person you could be in the world is an American politician, because you are
Yeah.
fucked in any decision you make. I don't envy like American politicians at all, because like there's no good answer. Like thinking about all these scenarios just in Syria, and this is just Syria, not Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iraq, just Syria right now. And this is very limited to what we know. Imagine all the things they know. Imagine all the little like how governments are also getting involved in this situation, and the little groups all around there. Like they know 1,000 times more interests, global interests that are going on there, that they also have to weigh in. And there's no like like this is the great outcome. There's zero great outcome. It's like you can just get fucked no matter what.
Yeah, and I saw a Nightline thing the other night, and they were talking to the Syrian people, like going there and actually talking to people that live in Syria, and they were saying they loved Assad, not because of what he's done, but because they don't want ISIS. They don't want Sharia law. They don't want, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've also seen that.
Yeah, go ahead,
they
Nisa.
were showing that on. They were showing that on a bunch of channels. I actually thought it was some kind of, kind of propaganda-ish. But then I saw it on a lot of channels, so I was like iffy about it. But Syria now is the definition of a hellhole, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have
And
to
for
remember
once,
in dictatorships like that, you do have people who are in love with the dictators. I think that's something that people in the United States and maybe a little bit like the Europeans might understand this a little bit more, but people do love their dictators.
No,
And
you're completely
Americans don't
right.
understand that.
You're completely right. But those same people, just to kind of add to that, those same people were calling for civil war. Like
No,
they
no,
were.
no. Yeah,
Uh,
because you have half and half in these countries. In dictatorships, you have because dictatorships by definition they give a lot to certain they favor a certain group of people, and the people they don't favor are completely screwed over. So you
yeah.
have people who either love the dictator or hate the dictator. Even in Libya with
yeah, but
Muammar Gaddafi, you had people who were in the streets holding his picture saying, "We love him. He is our father." Well, there's another group of people in a town who are about to get bombed by the asshole, right? And this exists in every dictatorship. So it's not that that's propaganda and it doesn't exist. It's just that is one vision of people. Some people are really favored under Assad.
well, look at the alternative, though. Look at the alternative. Look at what happened in Libya. So they took a
Yeah.
dictator out, and I'm not saying that
People
they should
prefer
have taken.
structure. They just do.
Yeah, and like when you have, did you guys see the Pentagon briefing when you were asking the guy? This guy was saying, "Oh, we are scraping. We're not going to do the training of the moderates anymore. We're not going to train any moderates in Syria. Oh, why? Oh, we didn't have enough. Give me a number. 5. That's the number he gave him. 5 people that they trained. They trained more, but then they deflected to join ISIS. So there's no moderates in Syria.
Well,
So
you have to
when
also remember like so many of the moderate, nice people are just immigrated to everywhere else in the world, right?
oh
All that is
yeah,
left there now
certainly.
are hardcore rebel fighters or ISIS.
Yeah, you have the Salafists who are there, and that was the American plan in 2012. The plan, I mean, in 2012, to give power to the Salafists. Fuck that. Hell no. Okay, so I mean, I don't even know. I don't even have a conclusion here on Syria. But when Russia started to step in, my first reaction was, let
Yeah,
them deal with that shit.
Yeah. Same here. Same here.
but the problem with that is that on a global economic scale, it threatens the petrodollar. It,
Yeah, I don't know. Go on, go on.
and yeah, our dollar would collapse.
No, and I was talking to my grandpa tonight about this, and maybe you guys can answer because he couldn't answer. He knows a lot about politics. He's a really smart guy, but it is. I know that Russia is allies with Syria and they're allies with Iran. Is it because of the oil money? Is it because or they just agree with what they believe in? I
It
mean, because
definitely has to
Because they
do
all
with
hate America.
this
yeah,
guy's
it has
gassing
to
his
do
own.
with oil
This
as
guy's
well.
gassing his own people, and Putin. He's wanting to rebuild Russia. Like he wants to become a superpower. And is it because he thinks that oil money will
Russians love
help? Or?
him. Russians love him. He has 80% approval rating. It's insane.
But to what you're
What
asking
basically
is
has to do.
yeah, no, go ahead, Nisa.
No, basically this approval rating that Putin has in Russia has much to do with how he handled the economic crisis, which is still going on, and how he handled all the sanctions. It could have been a lot worse, apparently. I don't know. That's what I've been reading. But that was just a side note. Just go on. Go on.
No, but what John just asked wasn't about the approval rating in Russia. You were asking why are these certain countries like Iran and Syria allied with Russia, right?
Yeah, yeah. Is it
That's
because
what
of
you asked.
oil? Is it because of
No, no,
oil?
no. It's not because of oil. It's because Russia during the Cold War, the fight over the Cold War was either some countries were either going to be capitalist democracies or they were going to be kind of communist dictatorships. And so the whole Cold War was a fight for the soul of every country in the world, right? And essentially Russia lost, and they have to deal with that. But most countries like sided with the United States as far as they became kind of liberal, capitalist democracies. But countries that didn't were not supported by the U.S. For the most part. There are some exceptions, for example, like Saudi Arabia for different reasons. But for the most part, a lot of dictatorships like Cuba and Iran and Syria and many other countries, they allied with Russia because they were essentially the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. That's why they're allied with Russia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because if Russia doesn't ally
Yeah.
themselves with those countries, they have no allies in the world. Right?
No,
And
that
that's
makes sense.
essentially
That makes sense.
I mean, why do you think China is still allies with North Korea? They have
Right.
nothing in common, but the United States has its ally South Korea and Japan there, and China needs them as an ally, even though they don't support what they're doing to any real practical degree, right? But they need them as an ally just for kind of a global strategic reason, and that's the only reason they keep out, and that's why Russia, that's their interest with these countries, not about oil so much as if Syria becomes if that dictatorship falls, the new government won't side with Russia. They'll side with the United States, and Russia will lose a country they associate with in that region. And they're losing countries that they associate with every year, every decade. It's more and more and more. They're losing people to connect with and have associations with it on a global scale. That's what freaks out Russia.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of what we were talking about the other night. And I mean, it's kind of like a game theory kind of question. And you would think that they would do this because they have so many common enemies. Like you said, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But it'd be cool to hear your take on this. And Lalo and Hagbar, y'all can chime in. And I mean, we kind of talked about this a lot. But if all of these Sunnis and Shia were allies, or there was no Sunni Shia. I mean, it was all just one Islam, and we lived in a world where they were all united. I mean, all of these countries would be working together. What kind of effects would that have on the world?
Which countries do you mean? Do you mean all the Muslim countries?
Yeah, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq. I mean, a lot of these, even in their own countries, are separated by the different sects of Islam. But
let's call it the Flash Caliphate. If all of a sudden all the Islamic countries that we're touching were part of a caliphate.
Yeah,
Right.
the ideology you're portraying is called pan-Islamism.
Yeah.
That
Cool.
all the Muslim countries in the world and all the Muslims in the world, not mattering what kind of Muslim they are or their nationality, ethnicity, should be unified into one group.
See, I thought I was
there's a-
smart. I thought I came up with that.
No, and well, that has been. For example, there are other people who debate different things. For example, there are people who believe in pan-Arabism, right? And pan-Arabism is like all the Arabs should be united and not with for example, if you had pan-Islamism, that would include Indonesia, right? And Pakistan and
Yeah.
Iran, but pan-Arabism doesn't include those countries. Doesn't include Iran and Pakistan and Indonesia. It only includes Arabs, but pan-Arabism includes people who might not be Muslim, right?
Yeah.
You could be a Christian Arab, right? So there's a lot of different ideologies, but there are some people who believe in that they should be unified by Islam.
So in a world of pan-Islamism where we have that, what effects do you think that would have?
You could
war.
Yeah, total war. Basically, you'd be fucked.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said when the question was immediately posed to me was, well, that would be a gigantic war.
Yeah, that'd be. I mean, if I was living in the United States and that happened, I would leave. I would come back to Chile. I would come back to Chile and get some. I'd get a telescope to watch the nuclear bombs go off in the States.
Yeah. You would in these situations you'd probably say I'd probably go to Sweden, but that's not really. You know what I mean? That's not really.
No, I think South America is the best option. It's like you're very far away, and it's like of no interest to bomb for them. But no, it would be a disaster.
Yeah. I had to leave Brazil because I was scared I would get shot in the face just by playing in the street.
But not by Muslims, you mean?
Oh no, not at all.
No. I'm not saying it's not violent, but I'm just saying you'd be less in danger of a nuclear bomb going off.
Oh yeah, of course. Oh, and also earthquakes, which is a big plus.
Yeah.
At least in Brazil, like you're in Chile, so it's
Yeah.
kind of
We
wrong.
get these huge earthquakes all the time.
That's
Hey,
sad.
Lalo.
Yeah.
I guess what would you think about a pan South America?
Well, that's been proposed many times.
That'd be pretty cool. I mean, I don't know
Well,
if it
No,
would
they
it
be.
had
wouldn't.
a
No, it wouldn't.
No, it wouldn't.
No, it would not.
they
Why?
had an
Anything would be a disaster.
That would be worse than what happened during the EU, man.
Yeah, like basically uniting countries too much doesn't end up in a good situation ever.
No,
I mean, a lot of
no,
people have talked about like kind of a pan-Hispanic country like that they don't become one country, but that you have kind of a European Union in the same way as in South America. But the
Right.
problem with that
Well, they
is
tried
that
that
well, I mean, they've kind of tried it, but people have talked about it being much more
with
unified. Like,
Mercosur.
yeah, Mercosur was but it's not to the degree a lot of people want. People want to unify them as like a singular kind of government and a
Like
unified
America, just like
currency.
America.
They want to unify the currency like like America, like that it'd be states.
You
And
would just have
the
different
idea,
states. Yeah.
the idea is that that the South America would become more powerful in that case, right? But the problem with that is that the countries that are well off are the ones that are going to suffer the most from this, and the countries that are not well off are going to reap all the benefits from it.
So you think it'd be kind of like
It's also
a continental communism type of thing where the rich get
A little
poorer
bit, yeah,
and the
that's
poor
true.
get
Yeah,
richer?
it is. It would be kind of a continental communism to a degree.
Well, it
Yeah.
would be inevitable. It's the same thing that happened in Europe. It would be inevitable. If they were allowed to move around, or if economics moved around one way or another, it would be inevitable that things would level out as the lowest coming up and the highest being pulled down.
It's crazy that America. I mean, it's almost a miracle that we prospered because we started from almost the same thing. We had colonies, and then we went to states, and we all united. And of course, we had a civil war, but we came together under one government and were able to not only split that wealth, combine that wealth, but distribute it and be prosperous from that. Where if you take another continent, that might not happen the same way.
Well, actually,
well,
it never happened much the same way, but
Yeah, yeah. It's almost a
Brazil's a
miracle that it happened
federalist.
in America.
Brazil's a federalist country, same as the United States.
I didn't know that.
It is a federalist country. It's very hard to manage. Very hard to manage. There's a lot of corruption. That's the problem with the whole of South America. Is the corruption. It's just
Yeah, I've
very
heard that
rampant. It's
before.
very hard to
well,
turn down.
Also Mexico is also a United States, and I
Yes,
think
yes,
India is as
states
well.
as well.
I thought
Yeah.
Lalo, you were gonna get offended when she said that.
No, many countries are federalist countries. We're offended by what?
When she said that's the problem with all South America is that corruption.
No, that corruption is the main problem of South America.
I don't know. I
Lying.
just thought it was
Yeah.
funny.
No, I mean that's like if you live in South America, you kind of that's like
You have to
second knowledge.
pretend.
Like it's like the problem of like the South America's corruption is.
Listen, if you're in an Anglo country, the way you get things done is you queue. You get into a line and you deal with the bureaucracy. If you're in a South American country, you pay people. I've heard this.
And also, it's
It's
not
not offensive.
no, it's not
It's a
offensive.
fact.
It's like
It's just a
everybody.
fact.
It's just a fact. I've never heard of anybody getting offended by talking about corruption in South America.
I don't know. It's just me personally. Like, I thought I was thinking if I lived in a country and someone said that, I think I would get offended. But
No, it's because of corruption in Latin America is different from the United States because corruption in the United States, for example, at the very least, the politicians have the decency to hide what they're doing.
right.
But in Latin America, they flaunt their corruption. Like go to look at Argentina and Christina Kirchner, the Kirchner from over there. Look at Hugo Chavez when he was around. Like
Oh,
these
God.
people flaunt their corruption.
Yeah.
They like Christina Kirchner in Argentina. She is well known from using government funds to buy like millions of dollars worth of expensive clothing. Hugo Chavez would drive around in like $500,000 Bentleys and things like that, and people know it's government money.
Yeah,
It's not hidden. It's like
No,
it's
making the
openly
statement that South
corruption.
America has a corruption problem is the same as making the statement that America has an obesity problem. It's pretty much
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Okay.
As a
Okay, that
counterpoint,
makes sense.
It's very different. It's
as
very
a
Yeah,
different.
the
counterpoint,
president of Guatemala just got arrested for corruption. My wife's from there. Her family's from there. Yeah, they're gonna have to get a new president because, I mean, they took his ass out. I don't know what he must have did something that was a little too crazy. But yeah,
well,
go ahead.
Brazilian president in the 90s, a Brazilian president in the 90s, 1991 or no, 1991, 92, around that time, he was impeached for corruption. Pretty big scandal actually. A lot of people on the street protesting against it, and he just got booted off. Didn't help much the rest of it, but well, it was a small victory. As I was going to make a counterpoint to the whole corruption thing. Lado was talking about all the expensive clothing and cars that politicians were buying on government funding or government money. There's an interesting story in Sweden. One kind of like a congressperson in Sweden, she has a credit card for her expenses as a representative of the people, correct? Okay, so she had that card and she accidentally used that card to buy diapers for her baby son. So she was she was convicted. She was actually getting jail time for that because she
That's
accidentally used that to
amazing.
buy diapers.
Like that is so different from South America. That is just
Wow.
that shows you the world of difference from like South
Yeah.
America
Yeah.
to like some European countries. The degree that we talk about like abuse of funds is like from like hundreds of millions of dollars to diapers, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's shown as much in America because like Hagbar said, you go and you queue and you poll and stuff, but like there's this big get the money out of politics thing where like the Koch brothers giving millions and millions of dollars to Hillary, and there's agendas that go with that. I mean, I think there's corruption. It's
Of
just
course.
not as
That's
bad.
what
Yeah, but they do
that's
it
what Lalo
legally.
said.
They,
Yeah.
they do it through legal loopholes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
They have the
Yeah.
courtesy not to wave the money in our face
Yeah, but
before they put it in our pockets.
yeah, like what John was saying about the Koch brothers funding certain politicians, that's legal, and people want to stop that. But it's still legal, and it's still coming from from the private sector into politics, which is the Koch brothers, right? But for example, Hugo Chavez, he would fund his own campaigns with money from the government, right? So the government is paying for like its own politician to campaign himself.
That makes
Right,
sense.
and that's totally different thing. It's not like it's a private company, Koch brothers funding him. He's literally going into the bank and just taking out the money to fund his own campaign. So it's
National
like a totally
treasury.
different thing.
What do y'all think
Like
about get the money out of
my
politics?
shit now.
Do y'all agree with that, or do you think
Yeah.
that private people
Yeah.
should be able to fund politicians?
I think we need to go back to that $1,500 limit we had before.
I don't
Yeah.
even agree with lobbying. I think lobbying is terrible.
Yeah, I'm not big on lobbying
Like
either,
House of
but
Cards
to
kind of lobbying.
Yeah, but I think it's a bigger problem than money. It's too much of a disbalance in politics, the amount of money that goes in.
Yeah, I think a good example of it, and I'm not 100% sure if it's almost like a conspiracy theory, but the evidence is so much there that you almost have to say that it's true. When Bush went into office and we had that economic crisis back in 2008, there were two different housing uh, companies that funded his campaign. I can't remember the names of them, but after they funded his campaign, he got into office. No, it wasn't Exxon. It was these housing companies. It's like one of them's the name
Oh,
of two different
housing.
people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but he implemented a law or a new thing that was called the Affordable Housing Act, where anyone could just buy a house, and that's what kind of flooded the market with all these new people that were getting credit that couldn't afford houses. And it broke the economy. All of these banks, were about to go bankrupt. We had to lend out $7 trillion from the Federal Reserve to all these companies. It was crony capitalism at its best, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
the
it, I mean,
housing bubble.
yeah, the housing bubble, and it just showed how when you have someone give money to a politician and then they get their agenda, they implement their agenda, and then it just fucks everybody. They don't look at what.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it fucked Europe too. So thanks a lot for that.
No problem.
Thanks
Sorry
a
about
lot,
that.
America.
Oh, just a quick
Selfish
story.
pricks, as always.
A quick story of like the disproportionality of like corruption, how it works. Like my friend who was living in Venezuela during like one of Hugo Chavez's re-election campaigns, he sent me a picture of a guy who showed up to like one corner and he was pulling out all these kind of campaign material for Hugo Chavez out of his car and setting it up. But the car he was pulling it out of was a Ferrari. Right, and obviously this Ferrari is like it's owned by Hugo Chavez and the government, but that's the kind of to the degree like you have campaign posters being pulled out of Ferraris in Venezuela, right? That's something you honestly wouldn't even see in the U.S. You wouldn't even see it there, even in the most richest parts, right?
Yeah. Do you think that Venezuela has gone full communist now?
No. They can't go full. No.
Yeah,
I mean it's socialism that borders on communism.
Yeah, a quasi communist. Yeah.
Yeah, quasi
The
like
thing is that
ultra socialist. Yeah.
I've heard from people, the Portuguese people that they're living there because there's a big Portuguese population there.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of trouble getting their money out of the banks because there's just limits on how much you can withdraw. There's limits on how much you can buy. There's all sorts of things like that. So, like my dad calls that they've gone full communist, which for me it's such an exaggeration, but it is bad. I have to agree that it is bad.
Yeah,
No,
that's heavily controlled economy right there, at very least.
Yeah, I mean, this the thing is the way that the left wing government in Venezuela runs the economy is so far to like ultra socialism that companies outside of there don't want to invest there. If you own a franchise, like you own whatever it is, a Starbucks, or you want to sell underwear or socks or computers, you don't want to open a company in Venezuela. You don't want to sell your product there because the economy is so unstable. You don't know how the government is going to react. You don't know how much the currency is going to fluctuate. It's such a terrible economy. Nobody wants to invest there.
Doesn't it have a history of freezing and seizing assets?
Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing Hugo Chavez did when he became president, is that he went into the American-owned oil companies who would pay royalties off for extracting oil. He went there with soldiers and he told them, "Get the fuck out and go home. This is now ours." And right there, they're basically tearing up economic agreements between different countries. And when you start doing that, you can't make, because, for example, between you and me, if both of us write a contract and you don't respect it, I'm not going to sign another one with you.
No,
obviously, right? So when Hugo Chavez did that, nobody's going to sign a new economic deal with this guy, and he fucks up his economy. That's the it sounded really noble. Everybody's like, "Oh, we have now appropriated back the oil back into Venezuela." Yeah, but every company in the world saw what you did, and like, I'm not going to do business with this guy. He could do this anytime, and he did that. He would, like, my friend told me, I actually have a doll in my room that's a Hugo Chavez doll.
Lovely.
Right, and it's like a talking doll, and it's made by the government. And my friend who was living in Venezuela bought it for me. And he heard about this doll, right? And he said he was looking for the doll to buy it for me, to bring it to me. And he said a friend finally told me where it was, and he told me it was in a government building. But he said this government building is basically a Hilton hotel. And so the government went into this Hilton hotel. They told all the people who work there, get out. This hotel is now ours. And they told me each level was like the property of a different government official, and each floor had its own like sushi chef and different kinds of chef, and in the lobby where it used to have the gift store, now it sells all kind of propaganda for the country. And one of the things they would sell was a Hugo Chavez doll, and that's the doll he brought to me. But it's the Hilton Hotel was just another thing that they took, they appropriated, and they say get the hell out. And you're not going to open a new hotel in a country like that, obviously,
No.
right? Of course, that's the problem.
Actually, apparently they're selling their gold now because they don't have any money left.
Lovely. That's all right. We just sold off a bunch of oil, so everyone's
Yeah.
dumping.
Well, it's not
Oh,
the same
they
thing.
are-
You know, like the dollar is based on the value, like it's proportional to the gold they have.
Oh, in that country?
No, in the
Yeah.
U.S.
It's supposed to be in the U.S. Supposed to be like that, but then
It's
there's the
supposed
whole
to be.
But
Yeah.
it's not.
there's the whole
It's
conspiracy
basically
theory.
your collateral.
saying-
That's what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be backed up by gold, but they actually backed it up by credit, right? Hagward,
yeah,
you were
yeah.
yeah, Hagward, weren't you talking about this the other
No,
night?
they back it up. Basically, our dollar is secure on an international market because it's the only dollar that can be used to buy oil.
Right, so it's almost basically backed up by oil now.
It is backed by oil, which is why it makes me nervous when we dump 56 million gallons on it back onto the
56
market.
million gallons of oil.
No, 56 million barrels, my
I mean
bad.
barrels. Yeah, barrels, not gallons.
My friend also sent me a news story. He said about Venezuela with the gold. He said the gold was actually like, you know, it was in a bank in another country, right? All the gold of Venezuela. And so basically the government wanted the oil back, so basically they could pay off the military. So the military would take this gold and basically just steal it, right? But the way they presented it to the country, what they were doing is that they brought it back and they literally put it like on different cars and they would wheel it out through the streets and they made it into like a parade and they would say, oh, the gold of Venezuela has returned to its mother country. And my friend told me these, you know, Venezuelans are so stupid. They would go out into the streets and applaud while these cars are driving down the street saying, yes, the gold has returned, because they don't understand what they're applauding. They think, oh, it was in another country, therefore it's like it's not Venezuela's, right? And now it's back in Venezuela, so now it's back in our hands. But essentially what they did is that they took it out of a bank and just to take it because, and I imagine what one of the reasons was that the economy and the government could fall at any time, and all these government officials in the military would want to leave. And when they left, they can't take the currency with them because the bolivar, the currency of Venezuela, is worth shit. It's not worth anything. If you had $2 trillion worth of bolivars, you know, it's like you have nothing. So they would have to leave with gold. Yeah, they can't leave with oil in their pockets, but they can leave with gold in suitcase.
If you had $2 trillion, you'd probably owe somebody money.
Yeah, no, it's approached almost to as bad as the Reichsmark was before the Hitler rose.
Yeah,
it's to the point where people you used to do things like you take a wheelbarrow cart down to the place and then realize you may as well just use the currency as toilet paper because it would actually be more paper in itself than the toilet paper.
My friend also family members from Chile would go to Venezuela, for example, with $2,000, let's say, worth in dollars. Oh no, they would. They would take dollars, U.S. dollars, into Venezuela, which is illegal because they're not. The U.S. dollar is illegal in Venezuela. So they would bring like in their, you know, hidden in their suitcases like $2,000.
Sorry, Venezuela.
And they would give it to my friend, and my friend would sell it. For example, my friend said he had a dentist, and this dentist would buy dollars. And for example, if he gave him $2,000, he would give him back in worth like $4,000 or $5,000 worth in the Venezuelan bolivar, because basically the dentist wants to get rid of all his bolivars and he wants U.S. dollars because he knows it's going to go down and down and down, and eventually the economy is going to collapse, and the only thing that's going to be worth a damn is U.S. dollars. So it doesn't matter if even you're losing money when you're doing that exchange. You want to have dollars and not the bolivar.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Didn't that happen at some point in the 80s in Argentina that their currency was so devalued and they have hyperinflation?
It also happened in the year 2000. That they're in Argentina. Their Argentinian peso, I think it is. The peso it just went straight. Yeah, it just went straight into the ground, like it was worth nothing. Yeah, and the economy
Well,
went to shit. Yeah.
Now Venezuela is a national security threat. Did you hear about that one?
In what sense?
It's considered by the U.S. as a national security threat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Venezuela?
Yeah, and now, and like, of course, like, Venezuela is really pissed off about that, so they want to, I don't know, go to the International Tribunal and argue against it.
Well, it doesn't
I
surprise me
saw
actually.
it.
There,
I
there,
saw it
there
as
are reasons for that though. There are
I
practical
just saw.
reasons that it is a security
Mhm.
threat because the leftist government is doing like the same thing I was saying about Russia having allies outside its territory. One of the associates they want to have is Venezuela, and Venezuela now that it's because Hugo Chavez campaigned on anti-Americanism, just saying United States is the worst, or the origin of all our problems, and so they had to begin associating with other countries. And you can look this up. You can look up Venezuela, Iran. What was his name? The ex-president of Iran. I forget his name, but he would travel to Venezuela, and for example, when Gaddafi was under attack by the rebels in his country, Hugo Chavez offered him asylum to come to Venezuela. And so Venezuela is trying to associate with all the enemies of the United States. Also with North Korea, it's had associations. So the problem is that you kind of have this Cuba Cold War situation. If you remember, like Russia had its nuclear weapons in Cuba. So now the danger is what if one of these countries that Venezuela is now associating with wants to bring in, for example, nuclear weapons into Venezuela to attack the United States? It's an unlikely situation, but it's not impossible because Venezuela is completely erratic politically.
Yeah, yeah, and they're easily taken
Yeah,
advantage of.
I've looked it up. It says it was oh my God, I can't say this name. Ahmadinejad, the
Ahmadinejad,
guy
yeah,
from Iran.
yeah,
Yeah,
Ahmadinejad,
It says
Muhammad
here.
Ahmadinejad.
Muhammad Ahmadinejad,
It
yeah,
says here that
the one who said
Oh,
gays don't
Syrian.
exist in Iran.
Yes, there are no gays here.
No, we have no gays in my
Well,
country. This is
No
this
gays
is an
here.
American
We
thing.
threw them off from the rooftops.
Yeah, yeah.
well, they don't they fund transaction operations for trans.
Yes, yes, they do.
Yeah, they do fund that. Yeah, so no
Yes.
gays then.
If you come out as gay and you go to and you admit it to your doctor will recommend you for body dysmorphia reassignment surgery.
But do
And
you know
you'll
that's a bad thing what they do, right? You know why they do it? It's like it's not people who want to be transgender and change
No,
sex.
no, I know
They
it's
push
not.
them into that because they think
No,
if you're
no.
gay, you
I
should
know
become a
that's not
woman.
a good thing.
No. But I'm saying it's like because it almost sounds like we're saying like they're okay with
No,
transgender people and they're funding
no.
it, but that's
It's
not
just
what they
plastic
do.
surgery.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're what
What
no,
do
of
they
course
do?
not. Of course
What do
not.
they do,
yeah.
Lalo?
Well, no,
But I've
what
heard
they
that claim.
yeah. No, that's true. What they do is like a family, if like they have a gay son, what they'll do is the government will fund like a transgender operation and turn them into women because like if you're gay then you should be a woman and now it's okay. Right now you could be gay because now you became a woman. You're not a man anymore.
Oh,
They rather
okay.
have
You
you
just
be a
gotta make.
transgender woman than to be a man. But
The
these people
guy,
don't want to be transgender. They're just gay.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Right?
The guy who did the very first transgender surgery, his name was Dr. Money. He was doing studies to see like is transgender like basically like being a man and having the mindset of a woman or having the being in the body of a man but having the mind of a woman, is that genetic? Is it like what causes that? Is it nature versus nurture basically argument? He was doing research to try to figure that out. So he took a boy that when he was very young, basically when he was born, he was circumcised, and they messed up the circumcision. I guess it got infected or something like that, and they had to go in and do a surgery and completely remove the penis, remove his testicles and all that, and basically turned him into a little girl. So he kind of grew up a little bit with some psychological issues, and he was heterosexual, but he basically had the body of a female. So Dr. Money was doing studies on him, and he had a little brother, and he was making, like, he made them basically have sex, and, like, he took pictures of them in different poses. I mean, the guy was a sick bastard, twisted in the mind, all this stuff. Well, this guy got older, and he basically, I mean, he ended up killing himself. He had a terrible life, and I don't know. I guess what we can take from that, and what I personally take from that, is that labeling someone transgender is a bad thing, and that's kind of what the
Well, what if they
discussion.
want to be labeled transgender?
Yeah.
If they want to be labeled transgender, that's fine, but society labeling them that transgender, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
You're
So you're
saying
talking
being
about
forced.
yeah, being forced into being
Being forced
transgender,
to-
like
Yeah,
we're
because
talking about in the Middle
he's
East.
the one that
Okay.
coined that term. Like, he literally created the word transgender. You know what I'm saying? And that had a lot of psychological damage on that kid, and him growing up into being an adult. If someone's a male or someone's a female, it's better to just call them that. If someone's gay, it's better to just call them gay. But transgendered it's basically, that was the conversation that was had, is that how damaging that is, and why it's not good to call
Yeah,
people
but to clarify, you mean like to call somebody transgender who doesn't identify that way is just to call them transgender because they're gay.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, or someone who's like, almost like Caitlyn Jenner. You know what I mean?
But Caitlyn Jenner
but
does
Caitlyn wanted to
identify
be a
as
woman.
transgender, no?
Right. No. You're completely right. Like, he wants to be called that. He wants that. He wants that label. But for someone who is like Caitlyn Jenner that doesn't want that label, society giving them that label, is very negative.
It's the danger of the diagnosis, as psychologists say. It's as soon as there is a way to say, oh, you fit in a box, more and more people are going to get shoved in that box who don't
Right.
necessarily fit in that box.
Mm.
See ADHD.
I find it fascinating that the new social justice movement is kind of anti-gender pronoun, right? They don't like using he and she and like these kind of things. But then I hear Caitlyn Jenner saying that he now wants to be identified as a she and a her, and they say, great, wonderful, we'll call you now a she and a her. But wait, didn't you just say you're against gender pronouns? Which is it?
Yeah.
So I'm
I
very
thought it was
confused
a
by the whole social
construct.
justice thing. Is it do you celebrate a person who wants to be qualified by a gender, or are you against it?
Well,
I
it's their
don't know. Like, it's so
their
confusing to
preferred
me.
pronouns. So it's like, you have to take the time to ask them what they want to be preferred as, or you're going to offend them.
No. But like, if I was in the United States and I was confronted with one of these social justice wars, and I said I'm a he and you're a her, they'll say, no, we shouldn't use gender pronouns at all. A lot of people are saying this.
No,
But then-
you're right.
But then they'll turn around but will they say to Caitlyn Jenner, I won't call you he and she? Or I'm sorry, I won't call you her and she? No, they absolutely will celebrate that. So which is it? I'm very confused. You know what
Right.
I mean?
And if you
Yeah.
notice,
What is it?
when I brought him up earlier, I said he, because I refused to call him a girl. You know what I mean? I refuse to call him a he or a she or a her. I don't care what he wants to be called. It's a man. He's always been a man. He'll always be a man to me. And is that offensive? It might be. I
So
don't-
you're against calling Caitlyn Jenner a her and a she?
Yes, I mean, I'm very against it personally.
Oh, that's interesting.
If other people want to call
Well, yeah, I
him
never
that,
heard
I
that.
don't care.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's
Because-
interesting. What do you think about that, Nisa?
I never heard that.
You never heard someone being against it?
Yeah.
I'm not
I
going to
think we should-
celebrate him
You
as a
know what?
woman.
If she wants to be called, if she wants to be called a she, why can't we call her a she? What is wrong with that?
You know what? You know what's
You can even
fascinating?
look
Like, a
for
lot of
men,
people would
like-
say, like, you're kind of you're transphobic.
No,
But
yeah,
the funny,
yeah.
But
That's what
the
you-
funny thing is that Caitlyn Jenner is against gay marriage. So
Yeah.
so he's also so Caitlyn Jenner, who's not gay, is also homophobic. So
Right.
that's
yeah,
that's
she
hilarious.
is. She's
It's very muddled when it comes to that
She
particular.
was, I mean.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you could call me transphobic. I mean, and I might be, I guess. I don't know. I'm not afraid of trans people. I refuse to call him. I grew up seeing him.
I don't think you're transphobic. I wouldn't say that.
I grew up hearing about him in the Olympics and hearing about him as an athlete, and not saying that women can't do that at all, or transgendered people can't do that at all. But he lived his entire life one person, and just to one day say, I'm a woman now. First of all, I don't really
That's not
buy
his
it.
claim.
I don't really buy it. And then second of all, I'm not going to conform to it. Like, I'm not going to call you a girl if you're a man. If I saw him on the street and he slapped me, I wouldn't Like, I'm not gonna fight a girl. I'm not gonna hit a girl. If a girl slapped me, I'm gonna walk away. But if he slapped me, I'm beating the shit out of him. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
He's an
I'm not.
Olympic athlete.
To be fair to John, that's actually not a bad point.
I'm not gonna punch down.
I mean, like,
I'm
I don't
gonna
agree.
treat you who you are.
I think I don't have a problem calling her and she, but the point you just made, I actually kind of agree with. I would have a different approach to, let's say, Caitlyn Jenner punching me versus a woman punching me. And now I opposed to you. I do think it's okay. Like, I can call her and she, but my reaction in that case is actually not the same reaction I would have to a woman. So actually, that's not a too bad a point, because I agree with you. I would have a different reaction in that case.
Well, if you look at it before.
Wait. What about let me ask Haggard. Is your also reaction in that case different?
What would if a previously male Olympian athlete who now identifies as female were to assault me? Would I treat it differently?
Yes. Would you
absolutely,
fight back
of
like
course.
in a different way versus a woman?
Would I fight the Jenner creature differently than I would your average female? Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, it's different. It's not the same thing.
No, it's simply, and that's what, there was a very famous feminist who got attacked by social justice warriors for saying just that Caitlyn Jenner is not really, quote unquote, a woman. And that's if that is a difficult statement for people to accept, I don't know what I can do.
He's not a woman. They're trying to give him Woman of the Year award, and he hasn't even been a woman for a full year.
He has a penis. I mean,
he has a penis. Like, he's not a woman. If he got the surgery, I might start calling him.
I think Nisa is also kind of like, on the opposite side of this, like more towards I think me and Nisa probably agree on a lot more here. So I kind of want to know what she thinks about.
I definitely do. Yeah. Nisa, please.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing. What the transgender community in America. I mean, the real spokesperson of the spokespeople of the transgender community in America. What they say is, it's okay to call us trans women. She's a trans woman. She's not biologically a woman because she wasn't born that way, but she's a trans woman. I'm totally perfectly fine with that, and I think that is the best way to call. To identify these sorts of cases. But here's the point, though. Although, as Bruce Jenner, he was living a life as a man, what she claims now, is that during that time, he had gender dysphoria. Okay? I'm going to take his word for it, and I'm going to accept that he wanted to be something else, but did not have the tools to do it, or didn't understand, or was afraid of the social reactions that would come with it. And after all those years, he came to that conclusion and decided to go forward. Now, is she a freaking hero for it? No. She's just a person that deserves my respect for having to make that tough decision. That's all.
I don't know. Have you guys ever seen the TV show, the reality show of hers? Because
that makes it slimy.
Like he was dropping in ratings. I mean, this guy was becoming nothing. Like, when he was a part of the Kardashians, people were looking at him, and then he was coming out with his new show. He wasn't going to get any views, but now that he came out, everybody's watching it. But it's not only that.
No.
I don't think it is.
But it's not only that.
I don't think it's.
He just got a charge.
I don't think it's the propaganda thing.
He just got a charge for manslaughter.
Well, wait, but don't change the subject too quick, because the reason I brought up the TV show is I've only seen a couple episodes, not a show I follow really. But one of the episodes I saw was that he invited over to his home a bunch of other transgender women, right?
Right.
But these transgender women were very hard on him because they're saying he is now the main representative of the transgender community, not just in the United States but almost globally, because he's now a figurehead for this whole thing. And they were telling him, you just became transgender, yesterday, right? And we've been dealing with this our whole life, and now you represent us. So, and they weren't happy with it too much because they didn't have, they had to confront bigotry for how they looked their whole life, and his introduction to being transgender is being on the cover of, what was it, Vogue? Everybody's patting him on the back, and that's not the reality of these
he
people
opposes gay marriage.
So So he actually had a lot of backlash even from the transgender community, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, if I could have a minute
Yeah.
to clarify, where I come from in Central Florida it has a place near it called the Parliament House. You can Google it and look it up. It's an entertainment parlor that's attached to the sleaziest hotel in town. They do drag shows there. They're called drag shows. I grew up all around these guys in South Florida and the Keys. It's full of transgendered people. I support transgendered people. I dislike Bruce Jenner. I think that
Oh,
Caitlyn is.
that's perfectly acceptable. 'Cause
Yeah,
he
and
was a
I
dick.
do it. I do it out of spite against a person that I feel is being disingenuous and attention-seeking. Now that's my personal opinion.
Oh well, like my also personal opinion is I was always conflicted between people wanting to celebrate a transgender person such as Caitlyn Jenner and giving any attention to the Kardashian family, which
Yeah.
I'm against. So it's kind of like
But no, it's also started at the top issue I have. It's exactly what
Yeah.
you guys described. It's that issue where I see these people, and I grew up I mean, these were congregational areas for the homosexual and transgendered communities.
Yeah.
South Florida's massive with this, and it's never bothered me. It's never even remotely bothered me. What the issue is that these people struggled. This person's a multimillionaire that's famous.
Yeah.
The celebration
But that was the
disgusts me.
I don't know. I disagree with you. I agree and I disagree. Let me check here again. Like I completely support these people. I mean, they live a hard life.
What do you mean these people? What do you mean these people? Isn't that like what you say in the United States a lot when you say
Yeah. Oh
these
yeah.
people?
Oh yeah.
It is
Yeah.
exactly what
Yeah.
we
What's
say.
wrong with
Yeah.
you people? What do you
What's
mean?
wrong
you
with- What do you
people?
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But no,
But what Lalo was saying,
and I'm not against them, but I'm against the word transgender. I'm against labeling.
Really? You're
them that.
against the word transgender?
I am because
Wow.
you have a male with gender dysphophobia. You have a woman with gender dysphophobia. Like, why do you have to label them? Why do you have to put them in that box? They already have enough going against them from the society that we're in. Why? I don't know. And I might be
Oh,
wrong.
so you say that you're against it because you kind of see it as a defense for them?
I see it as both an offense and an offense. I mean, people,
No. Oh,
Uh-huh.
okay.
It's almost like saying the word faggot. You know what I mean?
So,
Like
you see transgender as a slur?
Yes,
Kinda
yes, I very
was.
much do. I
Oh.
mean, it is a slur. If you call a guy, you're a little tranny, that's a slur.
that's
That's
another thing.
Go ahead.
Tranny's another thing.
Not necessarily, and a lot of people that have transitioned, actually, where I was from, they used the word tranny for themselves, like a lot of flamboyant homosexuals were saying, well, fuck yeah, I'm a faggot. Like, it's not
Yeah,
a big
I'm
deal
just-
to these people. They don't care.
Okay.
Most of these people are comfortable by the time they hit about 25. They know what's up. They know there's going to be assholes, but they know most people are decent human beings.
Right, but for the younger people that are, that might be new to it or are afraid of coming out about it, people calling people tranny or this whole transgender,
And
thing.
it feels enforced, as opposed to allowing there to be a spectrum. It gives a box, which is, like I said, that's the problem. It goes from, okay, maybe this poor person has a slight gender dysmorphia. Maybe they're what is colloquially a cross-dresser. Maybe they're a drag queen. Maybe that would satisfy these urges without having to resort to surgery.
Right, but why does there even have to be a word? Like, I mean, Caitlyn Jenner is a man, but he's a man with gender dysphoria. But why can't we just call him a man? Why can't we refer to him as he or him? You know what I mean?
Well, you
Well,
can't.
let's ask Nisa. Why can't we
Yeah,
just call him a
yeah.
man?
I want to let her talk on it.
What was the question? Why can we just call him a man?
Like, yeah, Jones asked, like, why can't we just call Caitlyn Jenner a man?
Yes, because I'm coming from a side that's extremely anti-transgender, not the people, but the word transgender, because I've seen the negative side effects it can have on society, labeling people and putting people in a box, like race. I mean, why do we have to be so divided by these things? Why can't we just all be people? Why can't we all just be humans? Like, we find special things to divide people. Go ahead. I'm gonna shut up.
We all have labels, right? We all have labels that we apply to ourselves. So I don't know if there's a group of people that have that label. I don't see that as negative. Maybe
Right,
you have
right,
seen
and I'm
some.
saying like if you apply that to yourself, that's fine. But I'm talking about like society as a
Can,
whole
can I
applying
can
it
I
to
try to
you.
respond to that too?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
you're saying about
Yeah, just go ahead. I
what,
was gonna make a point though about.
yeah, yeah, go
I
ahead.
was gonna make a point about what you've brought it up before about those trans women that didn't really warm up to Caitlyn that much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
You're
go ahead.
bringing up a point, yeah. I mean that's a very important thing, because one of the people that I've read on and I've listened to, and I think she's just absolutely brilliant. It's a professor called Jenny Boyle. She's a trans woman, and she talks about a lot of trans issues, and I think she's absolutely brilliant when she does it. And she was the first person that was actually being really harsh on Caitlyn Jenner, saying that you come from this place where you never witnessed anything that we have, and you didn't have to resort to prostitution or getting kicked out of your jobs or all these things, or poverty, or not having any being expelled out of your house and not having anywhere to go to, and you come here and saying that you speak for us all? No, you don't.
Mm.
I thought I really like when she talked about these issues, and maybe like you should check her out and see what she
Yeah,
has
you can send me the link.
about the whole idea
Mm.
of the name and what that entails. I think I am kind of opposed. I don't want to bring that to the table because that's a whole different topic here, but it kind of connects. I'm opposed to the idea that gender is just a social construct. Just
No,
a
it's
social
not.
construct.
It's not just
It's
a
not.
social
It's
construct.
it is. It has to do with biology. However, it has a somewhat social connection to it. On the way we're brought up and the interactions we have. It does have a little bit of a social construct to it, not an absolute social construct, but that
Well,
little
but
bit is a part
you
where
could
you
just say that the social part is constructed around the innate difference between
around
men
the
and women.
biological part.
Yeah, around it exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lalo, what were you gonna say earlier? What was the point you were
I
gonna
was
say?
well. I wanted to address what you were saying about like why it's important that he wanted to identify as a woman, and I think the thing is that in his mind is like at least from what I understand after watching. I mean, it's really bad. I shouldn't even be talking for the mentality of a person. I don't know the struggles they're going through at all. But if I was to
Check your
try,
privilege.
yeah, check your privilege. But but if I was to try, I would say the issue is that he is a man in a male body, but essentially his mentality is that of a woman. And it's almost like imagine somebody referred to you every day as a she or as a her. You might say, well, we're all human, and what's the difference? But you wouldn't react that way. You would feel like I'm not a woman. Why don't refer to me that way? It says nothing about who I really am. It would make me feel awkward and uncomfortable, and I imagine that's what happened to him. People
Yeah.
would call him and he and I'm sorry, would call her. Crap. He and him, and that sounded weird in his brain. The same way it would sound weird to you, and it would sound weird to me. So now when people call him, her, and she, it sounds right to him, and
Right,
and
right.
and and I think that's the difference. And yes, we're all human, and yes, what's the real difference? But you have to like kind of put yourself in the position where people around you are calling you something you're not. If everybody around me called me a Muslim, I'd be like, wait, I'm not a Muslim. I don't want to be called that because it doesn't identify who I am. I don't want to be called a communist. I don't want to be called a racist. Any kind of idea I don't hold, or
Well,
Wait,
something
hold the
like
no,
presses.
no.
Hold
There's
the
a
presses.
that's.
You're not a communist Muslim racist?
I don't think so. Well, not
I'm
anymore.
getting
Not
out of here
anymore.
then.
Lalo, I wanna argue that point.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, go
There
ahead.
are in fact communist Muslim races, by the way. There are Muslim
I
communist
believe that.
parties. Yeah, there are communist parties that are Muslim.
Lalo,
Yeah.
I want to argue that point, and
Go ahead.
we're probably going to get into a debate, and that's okay because I mean that's what this is for, and I love that we're talking about topics that we don't talk about a lot, and it's cool because it's new, and that's what I wanted. But
We can always be chugging down on Islamist apologists. We have to take a
Yeah, that's
break.
boring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But to me, you're equating gender pronouns as to something negative. So you said a racist or a
No,
communist
no,
or a
not
bigot.
negative. No,
Well,
something positive.
well, you said if I was called a Muslim, or if I was called a communist, if I was called
No,
something
no,
else.
no, no. Let me clarify then, because I hope you didn't understand. Is like, as I was saying that I'm taking this as slurs or insults. No, it's like if I was called, uh,
Well,
God,
no. What you're saying is like
but
someone who's a man who is being has the mind of a woman, but is being called a man. They see that as negative, right?
no, 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 no. I mean, you might see it that way, but that's not how I meant it. I meant it like, I don't know how you would see it, but if somebody called me he and she, I wouldn't take it as an insult, but it would bother me because it's simply not a truth.
Right,
It's simply not. I'm not that. It's. There's nothing wrong with being a he. Being a her or a she. But
right,
why does it bother me? Not because it's a negative thing to be, but because it's not what I am. It's the same.
right.
Like, oh, let me use this example. It's like if somebody called me, if somebody said you were French. I don't have like. Why would it bother me? Is it because I hate French people, or I think it's an insult? No, it's because I'm not French.
Right.
Why are you calling me French when I'm not? That's what I mean by it. It's simply because it bothers me because it lacks truth.
So I can kind of relate to that a little bit because I mean, if you look at me, I look white, and I'm not. I'm half white and half black. So all my life, I was always around black people, and they would say, "Oh, you're white. You're a white boy," and I'm not. I'm black, and I'm white. I'm just as white as I am black, and I'm just as black as I am white. So when people would call me white, I would be like, it was the same. It was almost the same thing. Now, was my life as bad as someone who's transgendered? No. I mean, they get so much more hate, so much more. Like your sexuality and that in America can get you so much more bigotry and hate than almost anything else. But to me, it's a part of your life. It's a part of your problem. If you see it as a problem, then it's a part of your problem. Like if you are a man and you identify as a woman, and someone keeps calling you by the pronouns of a man, that's just a part of it. I mean, that's a part of the that's a part of who you are. That's going to be a part of your life. It's a part of now you can dress like a woman, and people, and you can go on Vogue and look like a woman, and people might look at that and not know who you are and say, oh, that's a really pretty woman. But that's why I don't agree with it. That's why I will never call him a her or a she, because that's taking away what his life is, and that's taking away that's taking away from the condition that he's in. You know what I'm saying? And is it a good condition or a bad condition? Well, that's debatable, but that's his condition. That's what he has to live with. So if he's called a him or a he, I mean, what? It might be weird to him. It might be wrong to
But
him.
can you understand that maybe that it happens in biology where a person, where their psychology does not match their physiology? Can you accept that?
You're talking about gender dysphoria.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, yeah. But to be more specific about it, because if you say gender dysphoria, a lot of people might have different interpretations of what it is. But
Uh-huh.
can you understand that a person might have like in their mind they might be born with a different kind of psychology, and it's their brain is wired in a way where it works more like a woman, even though they have the body of a man.
No, I completely agree with that. There are millions of people that live with that.
Right. So what
Then
essentially
why would
what
he
you're doing,
calling her?
like, yeah, well, that's what I'm going to. It's like essential. So if you can accept that, why not simply respect the psychological aspect of that person and call her a she, even despite her physiology that might be masculine, but you're respecting the fact that their brain it identifies more as a female.
I completely agree with that theoretically. I mean that would be an ideal situation, but what I'm saying is that when you imply that into society, it has negative effects. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it has. I think it actually has more positive effects because you're acknowledging this person, and being respectful and doing it not only out of courtesy, but out of what that person really feels.
To
You
me,
know?
it's like I'm mulatto. I'm half white and half black. So it's like all me and all the mulattoes get together and we go campaign for everyone to call us mulatto. I
Well,
mean,
wait. Let me use an example like you yourself. You say you identify as black, but you don't look black. So I could say, what if I said, well, I'm not gonna call you black, and I don't recognize the fact that you are black because simply from looking at you and from your skin tone, you don't look black. So therefore, you have no real right to call yourself black, and I refuse to call you black.
right, right. So
Uh-huh.
so that that like I said in that example, that's something I lived with my whole life. Like people called me white boy. You know what I mean? When I was in the hood, around black people, everyone called me white boy. That was my nickname. You know what I mean? Like I was the white boy. I was the only white person around when I wasn't even white. So it was weird, and it it's almost the same thing. But what I'm saying is that if people call me that, then that's what they see. That's what they see as me. I don't think that I am so special that people should call me black boy or whatever. It's just people will call me what they see, and it was weird to me, but I don't have a problem with it. And it might be different.
But you have a preference. You if you could tell me I consider myself black and I can respect that and Caitlyn Jenner simply saying, well, I identify as a woman and I just like for you to respect that, and that's like,
Yeah, yeah. So
could you not see that in relation to yourself?
no. You're right. You said so. We have a preference, but that's kind of goes back to what I was saying. Is why can't we just all be human beings? And I know that we talked about that, but in that you're just a man or you're a woman. We're adding to these things, and I don't think that we necessarily should.
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't know if I'm right. I could be wrong. It's what I've thought prior to this conversation.
I think what you're getting at is the policing aspect of it. I think the fact is that your average transgendered person through the various stages of their transition and even well after their completion will be misgendered. They will be. They simply will be. It's a fact of life. You have to allow for that to occur because it is part of, unfortunately, what is going to happen. Otherwise, you have to live in a society that literally does what the social justice warriors want, where you walk into a classroom and go, okay, well, since I can't necessarily tell from looks, what are your pronouns preferred? Like,
Yeah,
and,
but
and
I mean,
That's kind of what I was getting at. Yeah.
but I can live like within bounds of reason. I can if he wants to be identified as a him and her, and I just like that
yeah,
group wants to
like
be
I said,
identified that way. That's cool. Like,
with that
yeah.
particular case, it's a specific form of disrespect I'm paying to Jenner.
Yeah,
I
so like
dislike that.
if my son is in school and there's a new kid and the kid wants to be identified as something else, I'm not going to tell my son, "Hey, go be mean to
Yeah,
that kid
see,
and call him
that's what I'm
something
telling.
else." Yeah, I'm not saying
I think he's
that.
specifically saying you don't have to respect their pronouns if you don't want to, or if you don't respect the person.
Yeah, I don't think it should be policed, is what I'm saying, because
Yeah.
it will get to that.
Well, I can kind of see
No,
what you
it won't
mean.
get.
That's what I was saying is like the societal implications of it. Is it's going to be a social justice warrior type of policing.
But I mean,
Here's
the
Sally.
social justice thing is like they by definition go overboard on these things. I mean,
Yeah.
it's what I was telling you, like that they can't even decide on what they think about this because they want to eliminate gender pronouns. But then how does that affect a person who wants to identify as a she and a her, like Caitlyn Jenner? It doesn't match with their narrative.
Does
So
not compute.
Yeah. So in conclusion
Yeah,
to
I
it,
think they conflate.
I think we agree on most things. It's just the implications of it, and then I think we agree that there's a fine line on it, like the authoritarian part of it, and then the respectful part of it is that you just got to kind of find a middle ground as to how to respect people, but also not police, you know,
It
what
has
people
it
say.
has to be done within. It has to be done within the boundaries of common sense.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
if
and
you
always.
know you need to be you can be respectful without conflating the whole issue to let's just change society as we know it and not address anyone until we know that person's preference in regards to gender, race, political affiliation, etc., etc., etc. No, that's not how society is gonna function. And maybe that's what you were getting into. But there's a difference between the line of common sense and respect, okay, which some people may misconstrue as politically correct. And for me, it's just being respectful and having common sense to going overboard with that and just being completely like a police state PC culture kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't think it's like simply like I can. There's certain things I can't live with from the social justice warriors. I can't live with them telling me I can't clap in an auditorium and I have to use jazz hands. That I can't live with. I can live with Caitlyn Jenner saying, can you call me her and she? Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, it's no problem.
Yeah, and I think it kind of plays into identity politics when you get to that, because I've met people that are transgender that want to be called what they were born with, like that they just simply don't care that much. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to
But I'll let them decide it.
Right. So it kind of plays into identity politics when you get that far into it, because not everybody is one way. Not everybody wants the same things.
Yeah, I think John's afraid of it becoming a tool. As opposed to, obviously, I don't think even John would walk up to someone who was in transition and be like, "Hey, man, what's up?" I just don't see that as something that would be your thing.
No,
I
don't think John is saying from a position of hate or anything like that.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Like if I see someone dressed as a girl, I'm gonna say, "What's up, girl?" Or if I see someone dressed, that's a guy, I'm gonna say, "Hey, what's up?" Like it's how I see you is how I'm gonna address you. Now the Caitlyn Jenner, like when I got onto that, that's completely different because of the fame and all that. Like
like I said, you disrespect the person. Yeah, just like me, you disrespect the person, not the idea necessarily. I don't like Caitlyn Jenner, and I will disrespect him as I see fit because I think it's funny. But I wouldn't do that to your average human being.
Well, the what I was saying earlier that I kind of wanted to put on, it's a conspiracy theory, but
Go for it.
He just got a manslaughter charge. Like before this all came out, he ran into somebody and killed them. So
when did that happen, John?
I can't. I can look it up if you want me to, but I mean, it was.
Was it recent, or did this happen years ago? When did that happen?
It was literally right before he came out as a woman.
Ah.
Well, he didn't run over anyone.
No, he didn't run anybody over, but he had a car
accident. Yeah, it was a traffic jam, and his car hit the other person's car, and it was like an old woman that died, but the charges were dropped.
So think about it. A celebrity, someone with all this money, like this is the conspiracy theory that me and some other people have that I've heard. But he's about to go. I mean, he might go to prison. And if he goes to prison, do you think he wants to go to a male prison or a woman prison?
They were dropped.
Right. They were dropped. But I'm saying like at the time.
I have no idea about that is so specific. I would not even I have no idea about this world of that you're referring to. So I have no.
It
opinion
goes to. Have you ever saw
Orange is the New Black?
Orange is the New Black, yeah.
Yeah. That's when you said like a transgender person in a prison. That's the only thing I could think about. That's literally my only reference is that TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't base my opinion on a TV show. It's like it's ridiculous. So I don't know.
I know.
I think that was kind of like what he was wanting. Like if he was gonna go to prison, that's what he wanted.
Chelsea Manning went to. She's in a female prison, isn't she?
Yes.
Chelsea Manning, the guy.
Yes.
Okay.
Indeed, she is.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is that this whole transgender issue is very new to society. I don't know a lot about it, and I think a lot of people don't know too much about it either. I mean, gay has been around for such a long time. It's such a popular issue. Well, people are very informed about it, but transgender is not. Like, for example, when in the Caitlyn Jenner interview, he was saying a lot of things that were kind of shocking to me. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I like he was saying like he never had a gay thought in his life or something like that. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I thought transgender people were gay. It's like I have no idea. This is all new to me.
That's one of the things I kind of like about Dave Rubin is like he's gay, but he said on his show, like he's an advocate for gay rights. Of course he is. He's a married gay man, but he doesn't want to bring that onto a show. He doesn't like just because he's gay, he doesn't want to completely affiliate himself with that. You know what I mean?
I had no idea he was gay until I saw like
A
an
Milo
episode.
interview.
Yeah, his coming out episode. It's like he said it a lot of times that people tell him all the time like he doesn't seem like a gay man.
Wow, that is so homophobic. You don't
Well, nobody-
seem gay? What does that mean? What does a gay seem like exactly, Lala?
You people.
No.
Yeah, I drove myself into a corner on that one, didn't I?
You did, I had to. I just had to.
I could tell he
kinda
was
messed
gay
up on that.
from the first second I ever saw him or heard him speak. I
You
saw
thought-
the first time
Wait,
I
wait,
saw him was on Devin Tracy's when he said, "Shout out to all you German prostitutes out there." Like I was like, he's gay. I mean, you could just tell.
Well,
Pretty good.
I don't know.
That's
I
your
don't know.
No, this is a
introduction to
man
him.
who's well educated about German prostitutes. They are predominantly male. He's not wrong. They have a very
Yeah.
large male sex trade in Germany.
That was the first time you ever saw Dave Rubin.
Well, if
That
he
was
had,
the first time I ever
if
saw
he
him.
had said shout out to the red light district, if he had said shout out to the red light district, he's a straight man. You say shout out to German and prostitutes, you're into some shit, dude.
Yeah.
Dave-
So like
Dave-
when I saw that, I was like, who the hell is this guy? Like he sounds like he's probably going to be hilarious, and I mean, he's not really that funny, but he's awesome. Like he's an intellect and he's doing great things. But
And can I just say he is so kind. He has been really, really kind to me.
yes,
You know, the guy has just been
Seems like it.
like he has gone so far out of his way to like help me out and talk to me and give me advice and things like that. This random nobody. He came on my podcast when I had less than 100 subscribers. You know, and I asked him like when he was just starting his show, I asked him like, would you come on at some point? And he's like, oh, I'm so swamped right now, I have no idea when I could do it. And then like a week before I had him on my podcast, he messaged me and he said, oh, let's do your podcast this week. I was like, oh, great. And he came on and he gives me his time, and so he's just a great guy. He's a,
he's
know,
he's very humble. I have nothing but good things to say about him, and
Yeah.
and I see you the same way, Lalo. Like you know, you're talking to us, and
well, it's hardly the same thing.
no, I'm not comparing the two, but
You know, I was at like, you know, I literally started my Twitter account for atheism. I started tweeting about atheism in February this year with 100 followers, right? You know, it was like, you can't compare me to Dave Rubin. It's not the same
like
thing
I
at all.
could see you, like your personality and who you are. I could see you being as big as Dave Rubin and still coming and talking with us.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens when we get there. But Dave
Yeah.
Rubin, being who he is, I don't see Cenk Uygur interacting with his audience the way Dave Rubin does. I don't see it. You know, he acts like Cenk Uygur likes to act like he's really cool, and he's really like, oh, I'm in this like kind of YouTube social media network. But who does he network with? Like, who has ever, like, what podcast has he ever been on? You know, like Dave Rubin, search for him. He's been on with Sargon of Akkad and things like that in the past. Who's Cenk ever supported outside his own shit?
The only
Nobody.
fans
Yeah,
that
that's a good
Cenk talks to are it's just to absorb praise. He will retweet praise.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't think that in terms of having it ease to talk and being someone that can express thoughts very clearly, I think that Dave is way above Cenk. Like
Oh,
way
definitely.
above.
Definitely.
I think that the way Cenk talks is just like this guy that, you know, he has read a few things and he likes to be social, but I don't think he's quite that smart.
Well, he said, I saw one episode. He said himself he doesn't read books. He just said it. He just said it like that. Like, I don't read.
I don't read
Well-
books.
Not that
That's-
there's
he said
anything
that.
wrong with that.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But if that's your position and you just say
Yeah.
you just
Yeah,
openly,
exactly.
Don't
if
be
you
proud of it.
openly say you don't read books, then you can't come out and insult Richard Dawkins. You can't.
I'm more of a magazine
Yeah.
man myself.
Yeah,
I think
like
books are
he
too
did,
dead.
like his latest video where he just outright insulted Richard Dawkins and said like, you're a nobody and how could people like no, like no,
Yeah,
Cenk, you
yeah,
can't say
yeah.
that. It's like,
Yeah, I'm just saying that there's nothing wrong with that because Bill Burr, you know, the comedian.
Bill Burr?
Yeah.
Burr.
Yeah, Bill Burr. Yeah, I
He
know.
says that he doesn't read, and he calls himself a dumb smart man or something, and he's fucking amazing. He's hilarious.
Well, but that's different, Nisa. It's like Bill Burr doesn't
I
present
know, yeah.
himself as like a political analyst, right? He's a comedian.
Yeah.
Of
But
course.
Cenk Uygur
Of course.
is talking on very complicated subjects about politics. I mean, if you spend every day talking about politics and then you openly say you don't read books, there's a
Yeah.
big contradiction there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Especially when you're gonna make claims about history,
Yes.
right, and historical events, when you don't even know what's behind it and the real implications and reasons to it.
Yeah,
He's
so I
just
want to.
regurgitating shit that he heard somebody else regurgitate in the comment section. I mean, right now, of course, because that's like my experience with him is just recent. You know, I'm not gonna talk about like his whole career or his
Well,
show in the past,
I started
but
watching
it
him
does
in
seem
2009, so I can.
yeah, you can, of course, but it does seem that like I can't really accept his criticisms when he has constantly lied. Like there's something that doesn't feel right, you know. Even if he's right about a few things, I don't really care anymore. Really.
I mean, that's what I was saying to. I don't know if you guys saw my podcast with Kyle,
With
but that was the
Kyle,
point
yeah.
I was making over and over. It does not work like that in the
Yeah,
real
yes,
world.
yes.
You can't. You're not allowed to be a liar half the time.
No,
And
it makes
and then
it really
people
easy
agree
to
with you the
discredit
other
you.
half. That's not how it works. You can't.
Yeah,
You
it
can't
doesn't.
be like.
It seems like no matter what you were saying, I don't know if it was to save face because of the relationships he had with these people, but you basically just destroyed him on that argument, and he was.
He was not having it.
Yeah, I cannot turn away from these people. I cannot discredit them.
Yeah,
I can-
a lot of people were telling me I should have gave him more examples, but I mean,
No, you shouldn't have. No,
because
you-
like if I had given him 10, 20, 30 more examples, he would have said the exact same thing. It was
Yeah, it doesn't
that was
matter what
obvious
you
to me.
said.
Yeah.
He had to save
Yeah.
his face because the relationship.
And it's fine. It's his opinion. I don't. There's no point in kind
It's
of
not his opinion.
reinforce it.
I don't think it was his opinion. And if like listening to it, it seemed like he almost agreed with you, but he could not. He could not agree with you. He could not openly say that because he has relationships with these people. And like,
Well,
imagine
I mean,
like if you worked for Sam Harris, you can't go on somewhere and someone is destroying Sam Harris. You can't say that you agree with them because it's gonna.
No, there's way to do it. There are ways to do it. There are ways he could agree with Lalo without without
Well, he
jeopardizing
did.
his
He
career.
tried
I
to.
think there.
But you could tell he agreed with him by the way he was talking, by his tone,
Well,
by the way he kind of backed up and wanted to change the subject. You could tell he agreed with him. I mean, there's no refuting that. He was only stating facts. He lied here, he lied there. You didn't really need to present much evidence. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But
He
yeah,
gave
go
him
ahead.
Reza. That's all he gave him. He just, I give you Reza, but then he said, well, but Reza stands for gay rights, so let
Well,
him
he
be a
brought
liar.
Cenk
What the
into
fuck?
it too. He said, Cenk misrepresented Sam after the debate that they had. He
But it's forgivable. It's no big deal.
I mean, I also sent him before we talked. I sent him the first video I ever made about Cenk Uygur and Sam Harris that I made last October, when Cenk was started making videos about the Ben Affleck thing, and that was a compilation of like 5 videos or 6 videos, and I broke down like tons and tons of lies in that video, and I sent it to Kyle before we spoke, and I think the main disagreement there is just that he felt that every single one of those misquotations and misrepresentations were all errors. And I mean that's the main difference. He sees this as mistakes, and I see them as purposeful lies,
fine.
right? And
No,
that's just a
He's
difference of
mistake.
opinion we're gonna have. And like you guys can say like he does agree with me, and it's but I can't speak to the guy's mentality
my problem
or
is,
psychology.
let's say he's right, and they're all mistakes, right? They're all mistakes. Well, then he's fucking incompetent.
Yeah, that's you're absolutely right. And then you're just an incompetent individual. Either way, it's really bad.
Yeah, and I'm sorry,
but
guys.
he was trying to
real
say.
quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually, I have a friend that he's been here for probably an hour and a half, being just incredibly fucking patient. He just showed up randomly, and I'm gonna have to get off and actually go hang out with him.
Well, like in person, you mean?
Yeah, like a human being, like that's
Like
sitting
like
there.
hang out with people? You hang out with people? Not just
Yeah, I know
online?
it's unusual.
I don't even remember what that's like anymore.
But yeah, like I said, he's been just indelibly patient. So I'm gonna have to haul
Okay.
ass, guys.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do
Hagbar,
Thank
thank you
you
for
for the
being here,
invite.
man. Thank you.
Yeah, I had
yeah.
fun. Like anytime you
Bye,
guys,
dude.
if you wanna do this again, Hagbar, like message John and me, and I'm happy to.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
always welcome in my. You know that
Yeah.
you're always welcome in these.
Absolutely, man.
All right, take care, man.
All right, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for
take it
coming.
easy, everyone. Bye, Neza.
Bye bye. Bye.
Lalo, I wanted to ask you a quick question.
Ask me.
So we were talking, me and Nisa and Hagbar were talking about this, but you weren't here the other day. Nisa, you can say what the name of it is, but basically when y'all were talking about you need to speak about your own country before you talk about another country.
Oh, that's the
On the Chomsky
Chomsky,
rule.
the Chomsky rule. Yeah, he was talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember if you were agreeing with him or not on that.
Oh, you don't. Well, no. That was a big chunk of it that I called. I basically called him out on it, and
Okay.
well, I was calling. Half of it was calling out Glenn Greenwald, which Kyle clarified was not his opinion. Kyle said that he applies the Chomsky rule to himself, but it doesn't have to apply to others. But Glenn Greenwald said it was unethical that you did not do that, that everybody did not do that. He claimed it was unethical. And I mean, I agree. I disagree with both stances, but I mean, if you want to apply that to yourself, you're welcome to. You're welcome to apply the Chomsky rule to yourself if you want to. But no, I disagree with it in prison, and I really disagree with Glenn Greenwald in saying that it's unethical.
To not apply the Chomsky rule.
Yeah, to apply the Chomsky rule. And well, to not apply the Chomsky rule is unethical. I vehemently disagree with that.
Yeah, me too. And he has a lot of anti-American sentiment. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I was talking with Devin, I referred to Kyle's opinion as anti-American, and he wasn't very happy with it, and I actually had to write in a correction and take away that I had referred to it to him, his opinion as anti-American, and clarified it to anti-imperialism.
That's completely wrong.
But to be honest, like, I mean, again, I don't want to call Kyle specifically anti-American because I don't want to get into trouble with it anymore.
Yeah,
but I think that a lot of these Chomsky philosophies of trying to make America the bad guy in every situation, or that United States has like ultimate responsibility, or even most responsibility in almost every problem throughout the world, isn't just. They claim it's a form of anti-imperialism. I really believe it's in a form of anti-Americanism, and anti-Americanism is something very complicated, and it has a lot of different aspects to it that people out in the United States don't see a lot.
It's funny that you naturally
travel and you live outside the United States, you understand a lot more about anti-Americanism. It's an idea very ingrained in the world.
Yeah. It's funny that you said that, because that literally was what I wanted to talk about with you and Hagbar. That was the whole point of me trying to get us all in the same chat, because that's what I wanted to talk about. If you go back and watch the chat that we had before you and Devin talked, that's literally what I was like. I was ranting about that. I mean, ranting about that. And when I saw you guys talk about it, I was like jumping up and down. I was like, oh my god, I wish I was in that talk. Like, that's all I was talking about.
I put a correction in my video with Kyle because he felt misrepresented, and he didn't like the way
I completely understand.
And I don't want Kyle to feel misrepresented, so I'll add an annotation, and I'm happy to do it.
Yeah.
But so I'll just speak aside from Kyle, not in reference to Kyle, but I think
no, because it's not just Kyle, it's James. It's the regressive mindset.
But actually speaking outside of like the regressive mindset, it's like a lot of like the kind of Chomsky philosophy, and it's not just like Chomsky is a big player there, but it's also people like Oliver Stone, Michael Moore, Naomi Klein, like a lot of people you might have heard of some, but not all. But a lot of these people have a very American-centered philosophy of politics. And to give you an example, for example, in Chile, Chomsky will refer to Chile's the coup in Chile, the military dictatorship. he claims it's a like 9/11, like I don't know if you know this, but 9/11 in Chile, like September 11th in 1973 is when the military coup of Chile was. It was also on a September 11th, right? And 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 Chomsky attributes that coup almost entirely to the United States, and that is really a misrepresentation of history. And it's not just a misrepresentation of history, but it takes away agency and responsibility from Chileans, right? And he kind of ports it as like, he says it's America's 9/11, right? And no, it's Chile's 9/11. Chileans did this, and and he'll talk about Augusto Pinochet, which was the military dictator in Chile.
Yeah.
And he'll talk about him as kind of an ultimate evil in Chile, right?
Right.
And I think he's evil. I think he's a bad guy. But it's important to know certain things. For example, that half of Chile still admires him and likes him, right? And the other half is against him. But that's an important aspect, that Chileans, even today, and possibly even more fervently before in the 70s and in the 80s, supported him, and even today support him. And Chomsky doesn't talk about that. He'll talk about it, the way he portrays it is as if all of Chile is against Augusto Pinochet. We all hate him, but the United States gave us him, right? Oh,
Right.
America intervened in Chile, and we got an American-supported dictator, and 100% of Chileans were against this dictator, but it was America that gave us him. And that is not what happened at all. Chilean, like even my father during that time, he was a lot, like, he was like in college more or less during that time. My father would tell me, like, everybody knew that coup was coming because the country was completely split down the middle. There was a heated conflict between communists and basically non-communists. I can't say exactly capitalist, but it's basically like non-communist party people. And the country was ultra divided. It's not that the United States came to Chile and they made this situation. The situation was here already. And that example with Chile applies to so many parts of the world. It applies to Iraq, Afghanistan, Cuba, Venezuela. It applies so many places. But when Chomsky talks about these situations, all he says is American interventionism, as if these countries had no responsibility, no agency. There was all the internal conflicts were kind of they're kind of puppets of American interventionism, and that is almost insulting to say that all the politics of the exterior outside the United States were all kind of these idiots being manipulated by America. That's not even ethical to say. People have their politics outside of the U.S.
To me, it's a conspiracy theory. That's all. Like,
It is a kind of you're very right. It is a form of conspiracy theories. Yeah.
It's brass tacks. That's what it is, because you can't prove it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's almost.
Well,
like
I can actually prove the opposite. I could prove he's wrong very easily. That's not hard.
Right. It's like the same thing when you say, like the military industrial complex. You know what I'm saying?
It's like that's a catchphrase in the United States.
Right. It's not to him. I'm not going to say one particular person because that was a part of the conversation. Nisa, go ahead and speak on this. Give me 1 second.
Well, Nisa had stepped out, I think.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm back.
She just came back. Yeah,
we
were talking about.
Kind of explain to her what we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. Did you listen to any of it? I don't think so, right?
No, I just came back.
Yeah. No, we were just talking about anti-Americanism, and I was talking about Chomsky, and I was explaining how Chomsky analyzes other countries' politics solely as like the conflicts are the result of American interventionism. So I was explaining that in Chile, for example, he talks about the military coup in Chile as being totally the responsibility of the U.S. But I was telling John that the Chileans, half of Chileans at the time supported the military dictatorship, and even today. There are like almost half the country supports that dictator who's now dead. There are still supporters of Pinochet who are called Pinochetistas today. It's not. This is not the result of America. Like Chileans feel this, and this kind of political divide exists everywhere in the world where Chomsky puts all the blame on the U.S. and it's not like that.
No.
I'm gonna ask
No,
you if
no,
you've
no, it
ever
wasn't.
have you ever like do you read YouTube comments ever?
Me?
Yeah, like just ever in your life have you ever read YouTube comments?
I mean, every time I start, I stop because it's terrible. They're like the most
it's just
toxic
a bunch of
comics
trolling.
every time.
But I'm sure like if since 2011 to now, if you've ever read YouTube comments, you've seen somewhere that jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams, or 9/11 was an inside
but
job.
before you go into that, Nisa wanted to say something in response.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I certainly think it was an influence. American influence was a big influence at the time, but I will cut down. I will cut that down to the influences of academic notion of capitalist economy, for most part.
Well, that came later, actually.
Mm.
That was during the dictatorship that they actually had was called the Chicago School of Thought and neoliberal.
Yes.
But that came during the dictatorship. It wasn't prior to the coup.
I just want to point out, like, you are one of the smartest people that I've ever met. Like, anything about history, you could just bring up anything, and she will just be like, yeah, this, and that. Like, and it's just crazy. Like, do you just sit there and read history books all day? Like, I mean, you can talk about anything. Like, you can talk about, I don't know, like Neanderthals walking the African desert, and you could be like, yeah, I mean, back in that time, there was this, and that. Like, it's just, I don't know, it amazes me. You could bring up anything, and Nisa will be able to just have a point on it, and I love that. It's awesome.
Nisa's very smart.
Yeah, you are a historian.
Like I was telling them, you had to be in. I told John that I really wanted you to be in this hangout too if I was gonna do it with John and Haggard and you because like you're one of the intelligent people in it. But I also told I was telling John like I don't think these are as fun when there's too many people.
Right.
You know, it's like I rather there be 3 or 4 people that I consider like good people to talk to.
Yeah. So basically, on the anti-American thing. Go ahead, sweetie.
Oh, did you just call her sweetie? You sexist son of a bitch.
I know that was so sexist of me.
No, that's okay. I'm kidding.
What did he say?
He called you
what
sweetie.
What did he say?
He called you sweetie.
Oh.
Yeah, right.
Just before I continue, there was a debate here, political debate here in Portugal before the elections, and the main one of the main politicians that was talking from the Socialist Party. The Socialist Party here, just so you know, it's center left. It's not way left. It's center left. And he was talking with the more left side of this other party, which is actually the party I subscribe to, the Left Bloc. And she was talking, and she's incredibly smart, and he just looked at her and said, well, you're smiling and you have a very pretty smile. However, your views, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh fuck, I hate that. I actually thought that was a bit sexist on his part.
That sounds terribly sexist, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people would say he's just being polite, and I thought he was just kind of downplaying the fact that she was.
Yeah, I mean, but for example, if somebody said that in Latin America, it would be very different from somebody saying it in the U.S. Because speaking kind of in that way to a woman is very common in Latin America still. You know, like they kind of like, oh, you're pretty, and like still referring to her, and it is sexist, but it's like I don't know. It's like for example, me in the U.S., people told me they found it kind of strange that when I was in the U.S., I would constantly compliment women on looks. Like friends, I would say, "Oh, you're looking very pretty today. Your hair looks very nice today." I would say that more than average American men do because it's more Latino kind of aspect to compliment women on.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Nisa. I didn't mean if that was demeaning. I'm sorry. I didn't.
I know.
Okay, yeah. It's like the way I was raised, like Southern gentleman type. Like when you interrupt a woman or like you bump into her or something, like you I don't know. I just like seeing like the way when I grew up, I saw men like when they do that, they say they almost like compliment her to almost try to make up for what they did. It's just a habit. I'm sorry.
What?
I
Oh,
don't
did you
know.
hear? Did
Maybe
you
I
hear
have
him,
no clue what I'm
Nisa?
talking about.
Nisa?
Yeah, I did. I just
Yeah.
whenever
You
I'm
threw her
in
for
the
a loop, I
computer, I kind of
guess.
break down. But we were talking about Chile, right?
Yeah, yeah, Chile. Hmm.
Yeah. So, the point. I mean, here's the thing. You just complimented me, and I don't remember the whole thing. So now I feel dumb, not remembering it all.
No, so we were talking. So you were saying that it still has a lot to do with American politics are involved. But I was pointing out
Yeah,
that the analysis of Chomsky, the narrative, because he doesn't come from an objective point of view. He comes with a narrative
mhm.
predisposed, which
Hmm.
is America's responsible, and he tries to
Yeah.
fit all of history and all of politics into his narrative instead of being objective.
Right, that's what they all
No,
do.
but the thing is, when he came to power, okay,
Hmm.
um, it was not a result of only American intervention in helping, in quotes, helping them out. That wasn't it. There was in the country, there was already this sort of movement towards that. Am I right?
You're talking about Chile right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. There was the country was absolutely extremely divided. There's actually like
Hmm.
a documentary that's like 6 hours long, divided in three parts. That's called the Battle of Chile, and
Mm.
I think it's called that. The La Batalla de Chile. I think that's the name. But it's basically just a guy going around the street, just interviewing people and talking to them about the current political atmosphere, and you could see how the people would talk. It's just it was extremely divided. It was polarized from like communist to non-communist, and they were just at each other's throats. And
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So my point is that what happened is that America took advantage of that climate,
Hmm.
of that very divisive political climate. I wouldn't part that everything to American interventionism. I wouldn't do that. I think it had an influence and it has a specific purpose, but I wouldn't call it out. So, this happened in Chile exclusively or mostly because of American intervention. I wouldn't say that.
Well,
There's a
the problem I was telling John about that is when Chomsky talks about it, he talks in a kind of absolutist way as the dictator Augusto Pinochet as being an absolute evil for Chileans, and that is incorrect. Even like for Chileans, Augusto Pinochet for half of Chile is considered like I have family members who have the picture of Augusto Pinochet on their walls today, right? They
Hmm.
still love him, and so when
Yeah.
Chomsky talks about it as like and he paints the picture I think in the minds of American people and people throughout the world now as for just talking about Chile as all Chileans hate Augusto Pinochet, we all hate him, but America gave us him and they're responsible for his being in power when that is not the reality
No.
of the country. It's not the reality of
No,
many
I would
countries.
agree with you there.
Yeah,
I would agree
so
with you
so
there.
Uh,
to me, it is the embodiment of cognitive dissonance. Like, I mean, has America had negative side effects on the world? Of course, and a lot of countries have. But the whole narrative is it ends up being fuck America. So if we intervene, we're in the wrong because we went and messed up the situation, or if we don't intervene, then we're wrong because we should have intervened. And that's the philosophy of these people. It all comes down to fuck America. I mean, any way you can get there, that's what they're going to get there, and that's why I call it anti-nationalism or anti-Americanism because they just find whatever way they can. But the reason that they're doing is because it fits the narrative of so many other things. So if you go from this starting point, then you can make all these other claims based on that.
well,
And
that's
if
what
someone
happened.
argues those claims, then you can just go back onto that. Basically, almost like with slavery. So if you say, well, the crime rate in America is really high in the black community, well then let's just go back to slavery. So we have this starting narrative that's going to help all these others.
I mean, that's what I mean. If you like, for example, Chomsky is firmly against the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet, but then he was completely supportive of the horrible regime of Hugo Chavez, completely in favor of him. Wrote, couldn't throw more flowers and praise his way to Hugo Chavez, even though he was disgusting, horrible, demagogic. I consider him a dictator. A lot of people arguing that he wasn't, but he wasn't. Like people say, oh, he was democratically elected. Not really. He twisted the
he
elections there to every degree he could. So but the thing is, like, so why does Chomsky support Hugo Chavez and not Augusto Pinochet? Because Hugo Chavez is an anti-capitalist, anti-American, kind of freedom fighter of Latin America. So is he good in any sense for the country? No, he was horrible. He destroyed the country's economy, socially. He made the country infinitely more violent and more increased criminality. All these things. He tore up the Constitution, dozens of times. He disassembled the Congress. All these things. But he was anti-capitalist, anti-American, and that was perfect for Chomsky's narrative. So he embraced them entirely. So I mean, he's not a person who's objective and looks at facts and history. And people think he is like that, but he is not. He works with a narrative. And his narrative is fuck America and fuck extreme capitalism, and he has to tie in everything into that.
Yeah, and I want to take a second to kind of disassociate Lalo with what I'm saying. What I'm saying is my own personal views. What he says is completely different, and if I say anything about anybody, it has nothing to do with what he believes. I'm a nobody, so it's basically...
Don't worry about that, John. But what were you saying, Nisa?
No, I don't have anything to add to what you said. You're completely right about.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you, Nisa. It's like there are influences from American interventionism. I know I can tell you in detail what was the influence from the United States. Like prior to the was that the United States helped in killing a general in Chile who was named René Schneider, and he wasn't politically in favor of Salvador Allende, who was the communist president at the time. Well, socialist president, but he was a Marxist. But so people would kind of argue he wasn't a communist, but he was a hardcore Marxist. But whatever. But they helped. The CIA assisted in his assassination, so they could put in Augusto Pinochet, who wanted to overthrow Allende. And then, like you were saying, after the coup. They the United States supported. They brought over a bunch of economists from American universities and kind of pushed them into the Chicago school of thought of neoliberalism and Milton Friedman and these kind of ultra neoliberal kind of philosophies of economics and things like that. So there's tons of influence from America, but Chomsky gives America way too much credit, and he takes way too much responsibility away from the people in these countries. Yeah, and that's not right.
And something Kyle kept repeating, something he kept saying, like he said that my tax dollars are going towards this, so he didn't even say he said we are personally responsible for these things.
Yeah, that's a little bit bizarre way of having a philosophy.
It's extremely bizarre. I mean, just because we pay taxes to the American government doesn't mean we necessarily agree with everything that they do or we have a hand in it. We're not responsible for that. I don't know, just a lot of just nitpicking some of the things that he said that didn't make sense and weren't true.
What were you saying, Nisa?
Oh no, it's past that. It was the point about other things, but just it's past. No, I was just gonna say there was like a 50-50 divide between Allende and Pinochet in on regards to the support of the people.
Yeah. I mean, if you like, for example, when Allende was elected into the presidency, he only had, I think, something like 30% of the votes. He didn't even have 50 when he was elected. He won with 30% because that was the highest percentage among all the candidates, and they didn't have what's called now in Chile like a second round, what is it called? The primaries in the United States is when there's many candidates, right? versus just 2 candidates. So in that time in Chile, you only
Mm-hmm.
had a primary. In other words, like you had a bunch of candidates, and then you wouldn't have a second voting round where it's just 2 candidates. That didn't exist. So Salvador Allende won with just 30% of the votes, and he was elected into the presidency, something like 30%, but it was low. And then they had again an election. Well, so and I'm jumping over the entire military dictatorship where there was no elections, but then Augusto Pinochet had elections. God damn, what year was this? I'm blanking on the year, but finally when Augusto Pinochet held elections, um, he actually had very close to 50% of the votes. So almost surprised, and so this is after like about like a decade of military dictatorship, and he held open elections. Still half the country supported him. So it's not that it's just like, oh, an evil dictatorship and this, like, I mean I'm not saying I support the dictatorship. What I'm saying is a lot of people did, so it's not black and white.
Right, and he had open elections, so it wasn't.
Well, he had open elections after a decade well, there's a lot of complications to that. Like, for example, the people around him said he would definitely win, and he didn't win.
Right, but yeah,
so
he gave it to the people to decide, which was very democratic of him.
No, he was
well, not really.
dissident.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so you can't really give him credit.
Yeah,
for
and
that.
I found it. This was in 1988. He got 44% of the votes versus 56%.
Almost
People
split.
voted no. Yeah. So I mean, 44% of Chile voted in favor of him. This is from 73 to 88 that there was a dictatorship in Chile, and still 44% were in favor of him, right? So it's not that you have this kind of absolute antagonism towards dictatorships. I often tell people, like, it's very hard I think for Americans to understand that people often love their dictators and want a dictatorship. Even in Chile today, there are people who want to live in a dictatorship. And that's not something easy for an American person to understand, because it's kind of like Americans are all about their freedom, right? There's like there's no American right now like campaigning with any large group of people to live in a dictatorship. But a lot of places in the world, people want this. People want to give up their freedom for comfort. You'd be surprised about how many people, if you offer them social services, they're willing to give up almost all their freedoms for it. That sounds weird, but that's a lot of people.
Yeah, and we're starting to see that in America a little bit, like with the Patriot Act. Like
Not
with the
really.
yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's not as extreme as that. It's not even close. You couldn't compare the two. But as an American and as someone who's such a lover of freedom, we see it as an extreme with like the Patriot Act, where they can collect cell phone records unwarranted to look for terrorism. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I mean, it's a first world problem compared to other like North Korea, for an example. It's not as bad as what other people live in, but we see that as that's what we would call a dictatorship, to almost kind of go to your point.
Yeah.
Not that
There was I'm trying to look it up now. Benjamin Franklin had a really good quote about this.
Never offer your safety. Never give your security for safety, or something like that. Or if you give your security for safety, you deserve neither.
I think it was. I can't find it right now, but here it is. Those who give up essentials liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety.
Yeah. I kind of just like,
and that is essentially, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's a very good quote, because that essentially speaks to the kind of people I'm talking about. That there are people who are willing to give up their liberty for security.
Yeah.
And security, not in like the 9/11 sense that you talk about in the U.S., but security in the sense that give me free healthcare, give me free education, give me free housing, that kind of security.
Right.
When communists talk about security, that's what they mean.
Economic security.
Economic security, yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of speaks to the human psyche. You know, we all want to be. Not only do we want to be collective, you know what I mean? We like, you know, tribalism or whatever you would say in the early ages, but we want to be secure. We want to know that at the end of the day, our families will be okay. And is security? I mean, is your privacy, is your things worth that? Some people will say, yeah, let's, you know, but the way that American philosophy is that we believe and we think that we will never give up one for the other. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know what you're saying. I'm trying to leave a pause so Nisa will speak because we keep talking over.
Yeah. I want.
No, I'm already on pre-sleep mode.
No, I understand.
5:30 here.
Yeah.
It's 5:30.
In the morning?
Oh,
in
is it
America.
5:30 in Portugal?
Yeah.
Are you going to work
Yeah.
yet? Because you said you were off.
No, it's Sunday tomorrow. It's Sunday already, right?
Oh,
yeah, tomorrow's Sunday.
Yeah, we'll see. In America, you know, like the world kind of revolves around us, so you know, we think that the rest of the world is upside down and different.
That's fine. It's, I actually because well, it's Saturday. I live near a club, so
Really?
Saturday yeah, I didn't
That
know.
sucks. Yeah,
It's awful.
yeah.
And they make a lot of noise. So Saturdays I have always to stay up until like 5 or 6.
Do you hear actually the noise from the club, or is it the people coming into the club or
I
coming
hear
out
the
of the
noise
club?
because it's sort of open.
Do 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 like that.
Yeah. Oh my God! Seriously, I feel like I want to kill someone.
Oh God, that sounds terrible.
Even with the windows closed, you can feel the vibration of the.
Oh God.
Go down there and give them all a history lesson. Teach them something.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, you know, if I go down and just, you know, like, I don't know, maybe like punch a few of these people. will tomorrow the newspapers say new atheist?
Right.
New atheist goes to the club and starts punching people.
Catholic.
You know, the Young Turks would cover it and they'd call it a terrorist
They're
attack.
probably our Catholic.
They would call it a new
probably our
atheist
Catholic.
terrorist
There we
attack.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen how desperate C.J. Werleman is to like just find examples of like atheist? Like he keeps posting these comments from supposed like atheist Facebook pages of like violent atheists, but he won't say what page this is.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. Like he's so and these are Facebook comments, like, and we don't even know where from.
Right.
But he keeps posting them as like kind of like example of atheist extremism and crap. Oh, it's so pathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did that today with the Tralahattan murder.
Did he? Oh God.
Yeah. He said that like because he liked some page
God.
on YouTube or something that he was a new because I think he liked a page where Ayaan Hirsi Ali was mentioned, so he's a new atheist, so he killed those people because he hated.
No, I'm not giving that guy any more attention.
They tried so hard when that last school shooting happened in Oregon. I think it was CEU or something like that. The guy was walking around the classroom pointing the gun at people and said, "What religion are you?" And they would say their religion. It didn't matter which one it was, and he'd kill them. But the news was like so ready. You could tell they were on the edge of their seats to call him an atheist and say atheism was behind it.
He also said that you're gonna meet your God now. So
right,
like, if you're an atheist, you're not gonna say you're gonna meet your God after you die. Anyway.
No, he was religious. Like he believed in what Wahhabism or something like that. Some really weird.
No. He was he said he was spiritual. And there was you know those groups, and when you're on a website, you can join those little groups.
Yeah.
He joined a group called Left Hand something, and Left Hand something. It's actually related to Satanism.
Oh, okay.
Well, but you know, for a lot of religious people, Satanism is atheism.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, when did like Satanism or spirituality become equated to atheism? That's ridiculous, but I mean, it doesn't matter because it's it's. I mean, atheism is not going to lead to violence in the way they are trying to depict.
No,
It's,
me
it's
and my mom had a conversation about this today because like I said, I have a son and she's extremely religious, and she wants to teach him how to pray and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of going through that right now. With she doesn't know I'm an atheist. None of my family does. I mean, they're so religious they would never talk to me again. Like
really.
yeah, they would never speak to me again
Oh
if they
my
knew.
God, really?
Yeah, if they knew that I didn't believe in God, and it's sad because we're family and it should be bigger than that, but that's just how I live in
Are
the
you,
Bible. Uh-huh.
Nisa? Is your family religious?
No, only my dad.
What about you,
kind of,
Lalo?
but what religion is your dad?
Oh, he's a Catholic.
But like very religious
He's a
Catholic
Catholic.
or
No, non-practicing.
non-practicing?
What about
Non-practicing.
you,
He likes
Lalo?
to have his little. You know how that's very common in Latin America. You know that how they like to keep their um little crosses and little saints and
Yeah,
all these things.
yeah.
So yeah, he will keep that, but he will not really
He doesn't go
talk
to
about it.
church or
But well,
to mass.
no, no, not at
Mm,
all. But then I have two brothers. They're both atheists from the
mm.
start, from the get-go. We were never created under a religious background or
Oh,
education or
you're a
anything.
pureblood.
We're always atheists.
You're a
It was
pureblood
never
atheist.
imposed. All three of us.
Wow. And that's what Devin likes
It,
to call it. To call it purebloods, the people who are born
yeah.
atheists. I like
I,
that.
I told I told that actually one of my brothers said that's bullshit because I'm not superior to anyone. I'm just superior because I'm smarter. That's what he says, not
No, it's
because
not.
I'm an atheist.
When I was talking with Devin, it's not about superiority, but it's that certain subjects that people who are religious find interesting. For example, if you're religious and you are a creationist, you find really interesting the arguments against creationism and the arguments for evolution. You're like, oh, that's fascinating, and people find this fascinating when they're like,
Yeah,
if they became atheists like in the last year and they're like 35 years
yeah.
old, then they're like, oh, here are the arguments for evolution. That's awesome. But for me and Devin or people who are
It's
been
just
atheists as well, it's
obvious.
not that interesting. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
we've always believed that. We're
Yeah,
not. This
it's
is not.
just
We're not into
obvious.
it.
he
Yeah,
summed it up best
of
when he
course.
said we're not going to talk about how Santa Claus doesn't exist. It's just
I
something
think
we've
actually I
always
said
known.
that to
Oh,
give
okay.
credit to myself.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I
yeah.
said it's like we're not going to sit here and talk about the scientific arguments against leprechauns and unicorns. It's
Right, right. It's a
yeah,
mute
it
point. There's
sounds
no
as
point
that's
talking
as
about it.
interesting to us as the arguments for evolution. But
Right. So
Yeah,
I was the exact opposite. I was raised in church. Like literally growing up, the only things I did was I went to Royal Rangers, which is like a Christian Boy Scouts.
mhm.
I went to church and I went to Walmart. That was it. And I went to a private Christian school. So I mean, literally my entire life was nothing but indoctrination. I preached at churches. I've stood in front of congregations of thousands of people and gave sermons. And I mean, that was my life. That was how I lived, and that's how my family is. The way they vote, they pray before meals. Like I mean, it's about religion 24/7. So
mhm.
I don't know, to raise a son around that environment and be an atheist and not believe in those things and to have the fear of what implications that can be on his psyche, because personally what it did to me, like children shouldn't know about hell. They shouldn't even be listening about death. And of course they're going to know about it. One day you can't shield them for it their whole lives. But and I know that this isn't the most interesting topic because you guys are true bloods, but when you bring children into it, it's a little bit different. And so I don't know. I'm just kind of going through that right now, and me and my wife are talking about when we want to have that talk and with her and the family, and just I don't know. It's really hard. It's almost I wouldn't compare it to coming out of the closet being gay. I mean, because that I'm sure is a lot harder. But with a family like mine, it's kind of like that.
Well, there's a book. There's this woman. She's on Twitter. Maybe I can give you her name. I don't know by heart. That she writes a book on secular parenting,
Mhm.
and I've heard it's really good. So I'm just I'll look into my
Is
my
that
Twitter
the
account.
godless mom?
Maybe I don't
I
know.
think her name is.
Yeah, she does a lot of great stuff. I've actually reached out to her on Twitter and asked for some advice from her, but
Oh, okay,
uh,
then
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Probably it's her.
No, I
Mm,
Probably
haven't.
her.
I've never heard anything from her. I'm sure she's extremely busy. She does a lot of great work and a lot of good stuff, but um,
mm.
She said, one time she said, "Would you be okay with your child going to a Christian private school?"
Well,
And
a lot of those schools don't actually indoctrinate the children.
mine did. We had
Okay.
chapel every Wednesday. We had Bible classes. Like, there's no getting away from it.
Mm.
Yeah.
I guess I was
Well, I
really
don't really
lucky. I
speak
was
for.
I was I was brought up in a completely atheist
You don't know
household.
how lucky you are, man. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, just to be taught that your morals, you weren't smart enough to think for yourself. Basically, is what you're taught.
I mean, when I was really little, I'm talking like 6 years old. I remember like my dad would sit me down and he would talk about like science and he said like black holes and I'm like, what's a black hole? And he would sit me down and he'd draw on a piece of paper like how a black hole is formed and why it absorbs light and all these things, and he would explain many different scientific theories to me, and these were the ideas I brought up. I never heard like religious ideas before. It was all science and physics from my
Oh my
family.
God,
So
that is so awesome. That
That's
is
yeah,
so
but
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah,
it's so different, right? It's
I
like
envy
my
that.
upbringing. Yeah,
I really do envy that, and
yeah,
that's what my son will have. But
yeah.
no, I mean that's why I'm really interested in True Bloods because it's cool to see how different your life is being brought up that way
Yeah.
from mine is indoctrination from the day I was born.
Mm. I mean, just
Actually, you know
that's
what
like.
helped me a lot?
Go ahead.
What helped me? Sorry. What helped me a lot to get into the whole science thing was watching Cosmos when I was a kid in the
Mm.
80s. Watching
Yeah.
Cosmos just opened my mind to, and that's why I get all these. That's why I don't understand what religious people say. Oh, because when you look, uh, that we atheists kind of lost our sense of wonder, and it's so not true. Because I
Mm.
was doing, as a kid and watching all these science documentaries, I had a way bigger sense of wonder than the other kid who thought God created everything.
I think it's exactly
You know?
opposite because religious people already assume that they know everything about the universe. It's all in one book, where atheists are completely they're skeptical, so they're always discovering, they're always learning new things, they're always questioning. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Hmm.
you're saying
It's
it's not the
way
opposite
more
of what Nisa said.
rewarding.
It's the opposite of what religious people say.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
exactly the
Yeah.
opposite because I mean their minds are trapped in a box. They can't learn anything that doesn't fit the narrative of the Bible or the Quran or whatever book they adhere to. So,
I, I
not go ahead.
one of the things I started like getting into the whole religious subject is because I think a lot of people are in it because they were brought up religious and then they left it and became atheists. But for me, is I got into it because I never held any religious beliefs. So I always found religious beliefs fascinating. Do you know what I mean? It's like to me like that people
Yes.
could actually believe religious beliefs is so out there for me that it's incredible. It's like almost like studying like people like psychos. It's like like a psychotic person who believes all kind of like when people study those kinds of mentalities. That's how I am with religious people. Like how exactly can you believe the stories of religion like Noah's Ark and resurrection and angels
Yeah.
like it's so out of the realm of my mentality that I find
Mhm.
it fascinating.
The most retweeted thing I've ever put on Twitter was religion is the greatest conspiracy theory ever. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, there's a
Mm.
kind of a fascination by people of conspiracy theories, and that it's very similar to religion.
No, yeah, it's exactly. I mean,
It's
it's a conspiracy theory. That's all. That's all they all are. I've read the Bible from cover to end. I've read a lot of the Quran. So if there's anything you ever want to know about it, just ask me, and I'd love to. I'd love to talk to you about that if that's something you're interested in. I mean,
Definitely.
we probably don't have time to go into tonight, but
No,
just
no, no.
anytime. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. On that note, I'm sure there are things you worship. What are the things you
Well,
worship?
there are things that are
Worship,
clearly
you know.
not not facts but beliefs. For example, my belief in freedom of speech is not a fact in itself. It's a subjective opinion I hold. If that's what you mean.
Right. That's
No,
what me and my
of
mom were
course.
debating
But what
about.
I'm
That there's
saying,
no
Wait,
objective
hold on. Let
morality.
Anissa finish
Yeah,
first.
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, what I'm saying was, what are things that you worship? Of course, that it's outside of the whole evidence-based thing, you know? What are things that you worship? You worship music, you worship movies, you worship. We have a little worship
Family. family.
For example.
I don't know if it's the same thing as like worship of religion, though.
Of course not. Of course not. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Actually, well, you guys can see me, but I was doing air quotes when I said worship.
Oh, okay. We couldn't see that. That makes a big difference.
Well, like I tell my wife that. Like I tell her, I worship you. You know what I mean? Like
Oh
it's
well,
the,
no. Wait, to worship a woman is a totally different thing.
no,
Totally,
yeah,
totally different.
it is. It's
Yeah,
completely different. But
when you find a woman to worship, that's a good thing.
yeah, it's a completely different thing. But
Yeah.
that's like when you were saying, what do you worship? That's
And
an
unlike
example of,
religion, some women are should be worshipped and are worth
yeah,
worshiping.
mothers should be worshipped. Yeah, that's why I tell her
Well,
that.
not all mothers, but also some mothers.
Yeah. Not all mothers.
Not all.
Not all.
Not
Not
all.
all. Not all.
Yeah. But coming back to the point that was being made, yeah, I think it is the mental process and development of that thought and to lead to that belief that is fascinating. It is the same thing as, okay, this guy did this terrible thing. I wonder what is in his mind. I'm also I'm always very curious about what is in people's minds when they do something, you know?
Yeah.
Whether something really good or something really bad. I'm always like going for the psychological, the what was in their psyche, what was their upbringing, their behavior, what led them to it. And in religions, it's also the same thing that fascinates me is like what led you to hold on to this belief despite all the evidence on the contrary.
Yeah, like a perfect example is in Genesis, or I don't know if it was Genesis or Leviticus, but Abraham, God told Abraham to kill his son, to sacrifice him. And like if you heard that today, you would think that person's fucking crazy, schizophrenic, like he's hearing voices and you know is about to kill his child. That even happens today. People will kill their children and say that God told them to do it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, like that woman
he's-
that she drowned 5 kids.
yeah, she drowned. Yeah, 5 of her.
God remained.
Yeah, she told her God told her to do it, and that's what her justification for it was. But Abraham is looked up to in Christianity because he was ready to make that ultimate sacrifice of stabbing his son to death and then burning him as a sacrifice. If you talk about that today, that sounds crazy. You know what I mean?
Not that crazy. I mean, honor killings is a very common thing. Honor killings is very different from the sacrifice you're talking about. But I think I think it's totally contrary to human nature for parents to kill their children.
But when you add
religion in there, yeah, I mean anything is possible, even in infanticide. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Mm.
Well, on that note, I'm going to go ahead and end it.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great chat.
It always is.
I think we should. I don't know about Nisa, but I think we should have more of these anytime you guys would like.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
I'm totally for it.
And I'd love to have Hagbard in it every time we do if he wants to be in. It seems like he does.
Yeah, I love his input.
Yeah.
I think we have a good dynamic between the 4 of us. So when you guys want to do it again, I'm totally at your guys' disposal.
Awesome, and I will always try to bring in new topics for us to talk about. And
I mean, we got plenty of topics just off the cuff.
Yeah, and I didn't have any for tonight because I mean, like you saw, it was just spur of the moment. But it just, I mean, with us, it just naturally kind of turns into what it does.
Well, I mean, I already have something to talk about with Nisa. We haven't got into. I think Nisa told me you enjoyed the book, The Shock Doctrine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to destroy you on that. So I have to argue with you on that point. But next time.
Am I gonna have to read the whole thing again? Probably. I read that I don't know, a bunch of years ago. This is the book's from 2010, I think.
I think even older.
I think that's when I read it.
Possibly even older. Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah, so next time we talk, Hagbard could probably want to get in on that too.
Hold on, let me.
Okay.
And I'll make sure to educate myself on it.
Oh, it's from 2007, FYI.
Okay, yeah, I read that about 2010. I bought it on sale.
Okay, we'll go over it a little bit next time. But yeah,
awesome.
Good talk, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on. Y'all have a good night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.